Chapter 26, A Matter of Domineering Color. Clap. Shen Yuan held Enelu and landed steadily in front of everyone. The two devil fruits were shining brightly and were played with by Shen Yuan. What's the other devil fruit? Shen Yuan muttered to himself and couldn't help but open the fruit encyclopedia and start looking through it. A group of people were still busy picking up the fragments. After a while, a large bag of golden bell fragments was brought to Shen Yuan, and everyone was exhausted. Tashiji and Joan will go and guide the people of Sky Island. The others can do whatever they want. Kyung and Tashiji looked at each other, nodded, and drove side by side towards the center of Sky Island. After saying that, Shen Yuan glanced at Smoker, then glanced in the direction of the Lord of the Sky. An idea came to my mind. If we use this money to build a ship, that ship must be very cool, right? Smoker, come with me again. You guys go to Rayleigh and keep an eye on this kid. Don't let him get hurt. Whoosh. The two disappeared again and ran towards the direction of the Lord of Sky Island. Khalifa looked at Enelu, who was covered in scars, and her motherly love overflowed. He took Enel's little hand and treated his wound carefully. At this time, Kyung and Dashiki encountered a problem. Many Shandia people encounter the divine soldiers, and war is about to break out. Didn't you hear the sound of the golden bell? The gods have spoken. They are condemning your atrocities. A group of Shandia people are ready to fight, and this time they are ready to defeat their opponents in one fell swoop and take back the land. Hee. Are you condemning your atrocities? We have been fighting for hundreds of years and suffered so many casualties. Each of the divine soldiers was full of murderous intent, and they looked at Shandia with ferocious eyes. Then let's have a showdown. Just when everyone was ready to fight, a loud shout came from a distance. I come here on behalf of the captain's will. From then on, the Shandia people moved to the Sky Island. The natives of Sky Island are not allowed to exclude Shandia. Shandia is the original inhabitant of Sky Island. When the Shandia people heard this, they were puzzled. Is it a god descending to earth? The Shandias all turned their heads to look and saw a man with a rather young face and conspicuous blue eyes staring at them. You are from Qinghai? The Lord God is from Qinghai. I come here on behalf of the captain's will. Let your god come out and duel with me. As soon as he finished speaking, Gonfort rode Pierre and slowly flew out of the crowd, holding a cone-headed spear in his hand. Your Excellency, have you come here to fight for the throne of God? No, the captain is not interested in your position as God. This time I came here to solve the dilemma that Shandia is facing. This time we made a promise, if I win, the Shandia people will move back to Sky Island, and if you win, we will return to Qinghai. Gonfort sighed softly, raised the weapon in his hand, and instantly assumed a fighting stance. Call out! A slashing blow instantly came from Kyung's leg and rushed towards Gonfort. What? Gonfort quickly turned around and adjusted his posture to dodge the attack, and he could hardly hold the spear in his hand. But his rich combat experience allowed him to quickly adjust his body and be ready to counterattack at any time. Mr. Shen, pay attention. Joan raised her leg high and kicked Gonfort's old face. Oh! Gonfort was kicked by Joan and fell off Pierre in an instant. A clear shoe print could be seen on his face. You are too weak. Kyung did not pursue the victory, at least he did not feel disgusted by the great god in front of him. I admit that you are very powerful, but I will also fight with my life at the risk of my life. Gonfort once again placed the spear across his chest and sat on Pierre again, his eyes firm and cold. No need. Tashiji drew out Shijer, and instantly wrapped it with a thick black armament haki. Call out! He swung his knife suddenly, cutting the distant forest in half. Gonfort was stunned, and the spear in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. I lost. Very quick and clean, without any delay. If I gamble my life on this, I will lose completely. This slashing cliff can split itself in half. Well, we won't stay here for long. Once our captain is done, we'll leave. Yes, Lord God, I hope you can agree to my proposal. Gonfort nodded and waved his hand, and a divine soldier staggered over. Notify all Sky Island soldiers to lay down their weapons and allow the Shandians to enter Sky Island. All the divine soldiers were stunned and looked at them inquiringly. But Gonfort still had a firm look on his face, a firmness that could not be questioned. Everyone, put down your weapons. Everyone, put down your weapons. As soon as these words came out, the whole place fell into silence. In a short while, all the Shandians rushed into the Sky Island. At this moment, their faces were filled with happy smiles. At this moment, both sides seemed to have let go of hundreds of years of hatred and stood together with hope. Oh! A gunshot broke the beauty. A Shandia man accidentally fired his gun and shot the divine soldier in front of him. Both sides were stunned for 2 full seconds. The shooter was also sweating profusely. It seemed as if his whole body was being watched. I said the gun went off accidentally, do you believe me? They're doing it. They're doing it. The magic soldiers suddenly became furious, and the volley shells in their hands were ready to move. Oh! The first divine soldier took the lead and knocked away the Shandian people in front of him, and then the two sides immediately engaged in a fierce battle. A war that shocked the world for hundreds of years. The scale of this war was no less than the war a few years later. The shooter did indeed fire accidentally. Stop shooting, stop shooting. The little girl from Shandia, Aisha, used the heart net to sense the surrounding situation and persuaded very firmly. At this moment, Kyung and Dashiki looked at each other. They both saw an emotion called embarrassment in each other's eyes. Is this considered comfort? Well, it's not too bad. At least we beat God. Gan Fuel's face turned black. Could he please not bring this up? Never mind. Without going through the last war, these people will never understand the beauty of peace. After saying this, the two of them disappeared, no longer paying attention to the chaotic battlefield here. All that should be done has been done. It's the Shandia people's own fault. Come and challenge me to a duel, and then humiliate me after you defeat me. Make demands after humiliation. Now that the two sides are fighting, are you just going to run away and do nothing? The two sides are fighting fiercely at this moment. Even if God himself comes today, it is impossible to stop this war. On the other side, the two had returned to Shen Yuan. Let's go. Shen Yuan has brought Smoker back to the group. Smoker was dragging a big bag. At first glance, the bag was full of gold, shining brightly. Is everything done? Dashiki had a strange look on her face and couldn't help but look at Kyung. Captain, a fight has started. Dashiki said embarrassedly. Who started the fight? Shen Yuan looked puzzled, and there was something wrong with the way he looked at Kyung. Are you out of your mind? Didn't I ask you to calm the Icelanders? Why did they start fighting? Kyung's eyes rolled for a while, and finally she told the truth. It's simple. It's just a matter of domineering color. Rayleigh, you go. We will go down first. Rayleigh's smiling face froze. You think that Overlord Haki is a cabbage on the street? You can use it when you want to, and you don't have to use it when you don't want to. Shen Yuan didn't waste any words and just led everyone. Is it going to go on like this? Just like that? Rayleigh's face darkened and he fixed his gaze on the chaotic battlefield in the distance. This is the second time I've cleaned up this brat's ass. Rayleigh walked into the island in a bad mood and started the cleanup work. Chapter 27. What is your current status? This time the harvest is not small. The nature-type thunder fruit. Shen Yuan suppressed his excitement and continued to mutter, this other one is an ancient animal species. Saber-toothed tiger form. Rayleigh just listened quietly, with a confused look on his face. Marco said that Whitebeard has agreed to my plan, so this matter must be advanced in schedule. You want to cooperate with that old man Whitebeard? Rayleigh asked in surprise. Yes, I have a full-fledged plan. For what? For territory and treasure, for famous swords and strength. After saying this, Shen Yuan slowly reached for the hilt of the heaven-swallowing sword, his face full of desire. Smoker kept counting the fragments of the golden bell. Speechless is written all over my face. He was also very curious. How did Shen Yuan know these relatively secret things? Knowing that Sky Island really exists, knowing the devil fruit on Sky Island, knowing the existence of the golden bell. Then again, could the sacred object on Sky Island become the operating expenses? Little devil, you really want to use anyone you catch to death. Rayleigh seemed to have aged 10 years. I have been going out to sea with Shen Yuan for such a long time and I have never had a moment of peace. Smoker felt the same way, but he didn't dare to say it out loud. In a word, I'm afraid of being beaten. Keep going, old man. This time I might have to meet that old man with white beard. Rayleigh nodded. The Sabayati archipelago was not far away, and the journey was about to end. Speaking of which, Rayleigh had a very pleasant trip during this period. The pirate group had been disbanded for such a long time, and for the first time he felt the traveling scene a few years ago. Rayleigh thought, glancing at Shen Yuan. At this moment, Shen Yuan was holding Tashiji in his left hand and Khalifa in his right hand. That annoying expression seemed to be saying, "Oh, how boring." Rayleigh. Joan hurried out of the cabin and said solemnly, "Captain, there is not much food left on the ship. We only have a pile of Baileys." Shen Yuan nodded and said casually, "Restock the supplies when we reach Chonglian Island." As soon as he finished speaking, Shen Yuan's expression suddenly became unusual. "It looks like we're being targeted." CP member. Smoker asked tentatively. "It may be that some people on the island exude an aura that is different from that of ordinary people." Shen Yuan remained motionless, just quietly sensing everything going on around him. He has slowly used his observation haki to develop the ability to sense the enemy's aura. As we all know, the key to victory or defeat in the One Piece world is nothing more than 2 points. One is the fruit ability, and the other is the physical strength. These two kinds of power are completely different. People who have received rigorous training are very different from ordinary people. Shen Yuan calls it power aura. Shen Yuan now instantly felt that he was being monitored. It's like Naruto is being monitored by the Anbu and always feels restricted. There was a lot of panic all around. The intelligence members hiding on Gaia Island are all dressed like civilians. "Captain, Marco left a den mushi before he left, asking us to contact him at any time." As she spoke, Kyan took out a den mushi with a pineapple head and handed it to Shen Yuan. At this moment, Enelo stared blankly at the atmosphere on the ship. Especially Shen Yuan, he didn't have the airs of a strong man at all. This gave him a different feeling for the first time. Since we are going to sea, we must set a goal. And he, Enelu, is going to become the strongest man in this world. Naval Headquarters. Malinvondo. Garp, this is the news from the world government, what do you think? Sengoku handed the information to Garp, then closed his eyes, as if thinking about something. Garp took it indifferently, looked through it carefully, and marveled at it. Adventurer Shen Yuan killed all members of CP9 and fled for fear of crime. This message left Garp stunned and speechless for a long time. Zhang Guo said gloomily, "How do you think the world government will react after this incident?" Possible. Garp didn't know what to say. If I want to kill Shen Yuan on the spot, what should I do? Should we become the enemy of the world government, or just swallow our anger in silence? Maybe we can kill that little brat Shen Yuan right on the spot, right? Of course this conjecture is correct. But after so much time has passed, the world government has not responded. This proves that the world government does not want to break up with Shen Yuan now. Garp nodded. This matter was neither a big nor a small one, and it was nothing wrong for him anyway. From the perspective of the world government, what Shen Yuan did was tantamount to a provocation of authority. But the world government's order is to send our headquarters generals to encircle and suppress Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan cannot be killed yet. He must be escorted to the underwater prison. What? Garp instantly flew into a rage, and the senbei in his hand was crushed to pieces. Zhang Guo frowned and continued to speak the second half of the sentence. It's just that this matter is still under discussion. We won't take action until the world government's order is enforced. Garp, who had been extremely angry just now, instantly deflated and continued to eat the senbei crumbs in his seat. It seems that you care a lot about this grandson. Garp lowered his head and chewed on a senbei, cleverly avoiding the topic. Sengoku, I want to take a month off. In the past, Sengoku would have to have a big fight with Garp before letting him go, but now he compromised easily. Okay, I'll give you a long vacation to relax. Garp's mouth opened into an exaggerated arc, and the debris in his hand fell to the ground. Zhang Guo, why are you? In fact, Sengoku sympathizes with Garp's plight. His son organized a revolutionary army and was defined as a dangerous element by the world government. He placed all his hopes on his grandson. But his grandson went out to sea to become an adventurer, and now he is being targeted by those old men from the world government. While there is still time, my 2 grandsons should establish their values as early as possible. Sengoku sighed softly, patted Garp's shoulder and showed a sympathetic expression. Garp. Zifa knocked on the door, and after getting a response, he pushed the door open and walked in. Zifa, what do you want from me? Zhang Guo asked in confusion. Zhang Guo, I don't want to teach anymore. I think I am a loser. I want to retire and go home to live out my life. When it comes to this issue, the Warring States period is overwhelmed. The Navy is in urgent need of manpower right now. Just lead this class and then you can retire. Zifa sighed, shook his head and left the office door. Term after term, when will this day end? Sengoku seemed to be pondering this question as well. The Marine headquarters really needed Zephyr now. Zifa's teaching ability is better than those old guys. As he spoke, Sengoku took out a den mushi, which, judging from its appearance, was Smoker's den mushi. Blue blue blue, blue blue blue. Smoker, who was steering the ship, felt his pocket vibrate. He took it out and looked at it. Warring States Marshal? Smoker was stunned for a moment, already having some thoughts in his mind. Hello? Smoker. Smoker nodded subconsciously and replied, Marshal Warring States? What's wrong? Smoker, how have you been lately? Zhang Guo's usual politeness made Smoker feel familiar instantly. Marshal Zhang Guo, what can I do for you? Zhang Guo also nodded subconsciously and said. What is your status now? Smoker was stunned. He looked at Shen Yuan lying on the recliner in the distance, then looked at the den mushi in front of him, and his heart was in a dilemma. You don't have to give me an answer to this question right away. I'll give you 3 days. If you don't respond, you will be expelled from the Navy. After the call was disconnected, Smoker looked struggling. If I were given 3 days. Am I a Marine, a pirate, or an adventurer? Smoker closed his eyes, as if he wanted to forget this question temporarily. Chapter 28. Ask yourself first if you are deserving of it. Pirates. They're pirates. The residents on the Long Chain Island fled in all directions like frightened birds. Hey, 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 hey. This is my territory. This is the starting point for me to dominate the world. Hey, 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 hey. Grooved head, rosacea, ugly face. Fox, waving his index finger, led the crew onto the island and directed his men to begin looting. The Long Chain Island is surrounded by more than 10 islands and is named Long Chain Island because of its shape resembling a long chain. Most of the residents on the island are nomadic people, and their architectural style is somewhat similar to yurts. Run! Many villagers were riding on a dog that was so long and were running away madly into the distance. Hey, hey, hey! Dock the boat at the coast. We are preparing for a party. It is good. The many minions behind him cheered in unison, but ignored the others who had landed on the island. Shen Yuan was delighted when the reward arrived. Arrived at Long Chain Island. Obtain skill points 5. Enelu and June looked around curiously and couldn't help but marvel at the surroundings. What a beautiful scenery. It's Enelu's first time going out to sea, and he's extremely excited. Indeed, but it seems that there was a pirate invasion just now. Shen Yuan had noticed it a long time ago, but his primary goal was to search for traces of the flame fruit, and he ignored Fox and his gang who also came to the island. Hey! Little devil! You! Before Fox could finish his words, an invisible pressure instantly emanated from his body. This momentum made Fox stiffen up. He immediately swallowed back what he wanted to say. Navy! Please put down your weapons. Several Navy officers pointed their guns at Shen Yuan and his men. Shen Yuan's face turned black. I say, can't you tell who is more vicious? The Marine glanced at Fox and immediately looked away. Pirate, don't move. Buzz. The violent domineering color erupted again, stunning everyone around, including the villagers. The Marine who had been so arrogant just now was grabbed by Shen Yuan by the neck, his eyes filled with timidity and fear. Who are the officers stationed on this island? The Marine was trembling with fear and couldn't stop shaking all over. Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel of the Navy headquarters. Said the Marine tremblingly. Where? Shen Yuan asked again. Just. Get out. Shen Yuan threw the Marine up and kicked him aside. Fox, right? Let's play a game. If I lose, I'll give you a ton of gold. If you lose, you give me the slowness fruit. Fox's face lit up with joy. A ton of gold. That's a ton of gold. But when I came to my senses, this kid wanted to kill me. No, change one. Well, if I win, give me your life. Fox's face turned dark. This is crazy. No matter what happens today, you just want my life? But on second thought, this business is not a loss. Okay. How do we play? As long as you can take 3 of my punches without dying, you win. Otherwise, I win. Fox fell silent after hearing this. The person is not good. He really comes with bad intentions. Little ghost, don't be so arrogant, Before he could finish his words, a fist suddenly hit Fox in the face like a fast-attacked missile. The fierce gust of wind whipped his hair into a slicked-back mess. Oh! A gust of air erupted instantly and spread all around. Oh! Another punch was thrown. Liver explosion. My day! Smoker subconsciously touched his waist and felt it trembling slightly. Boom! Fox was embedded in the ground, his chest heaving and blood spurting out of his mouth. Let's not throw the 3rd punch for now. Let our crew members win. Shen Yuan smiled slightly and stepped heavily on Fox's chest with his big feet. Feeling the weight of this kick, Fox spat out blood again. Nima! If you don't use your hands, use your feet. The 2 big guys walked forward nervously and looked at Shen Yuan with caution. These 2 idiots, Smoker, you deal with them. Smoker took a step forward, shaking the earth. Bring it on. The big guy suddenly felt like Alexander, and his teeth were trembling when he looked at the silver-haired Smoker in front of him. Ding! Dang! One of them was hit with 1 punch and fell to the ground, looking dead. Shen Yuan was speechless. We admit defeat, we admit defeat. Our ship and its treasure are yours. Could you please not kill our captain, sir? A sweet female voice came from a distance. Shen Yuan turned his head and looked. I saw a woman with a decent appearance looking at me with a pleading look on her face. That's so cute, no? Shen Yuan smiled and spoke, then he exerted a little force with his big feet, stepping on Fox, causing him to wail. Don't kill me, don't kill me. I can be your slave, I can give you. You can still scream? You are nothing more than a cow or a horse. Shen Yuan raised his feet high and hung in front of Fox. Then he was suddenly covered with armed color domineering, wrapped in black and white lightning, and stomped down heavily at Fox. At this critical moment, one of the big guys launched an attack to prevent the disaster from happening. Boom! The big guy's arm was broken by Shen Yuan's kick, but his power did not decrease and he fell heavily on Fox's stomach. Wow! There was a sound of flesh being ravaged. Fox's belly was trampled into a pile of mud. Now we can make dumplings during festivals. Kill the plot character Fox and get skill point 1. Another useless person with insufficient strength? Was it too early to kill myself? Do I have to ask the other person if he deserves it before killing him next time? You have to think twice before you are killed. Do you deserve it? What? The girl turned pale when she saw this scene. He closed his eyes, kicked his legs, and fainted instantly. Shen Yuan didn't care whether he lived or died, but turned to look at another big guy who was watching the show. Take this group of cannon fodder to search for the Navy's garrison and report to me when you get the news. Do you understand? The big guy nodded quickly and told his men to start working. So, how are you going to die? With his arm broken, the sandbag who sacrificed himself to save his master was covered in cold sweat. I don't want to. Shen Yuan kicked him hard on the neck from mid-air. The power comes instantly. With a crack sound, the crisp sound of a broken neck spread all around. He fell to the ground with a bang, and did not finish saying this sentence until his death. Wake him up. Shen Yuan spoke calmly. Qian nodded, walked up and patted the girl's face, and the girl woke up in a daze. As a result, the first time I saw Shen Yuan, it was like seeing a devil. Don't kill me, don't kill me. The girl was in a panic and the fairy wand in her hand kept shaking. You can live, but get out of here before I change my mind. After saying this, Shen Yuan began to study the 2 devil fruits he had obtained before. Thank you for not killing me. I will definitely repay you in the future. The girl turned around and ran towards the pirate ship as if she had been pardoned. But halfway through the run, he froze. This doesn't seem to be our ship anymore. The girl ran again and disappeared from everyone's sight along the path. Boss, do you want to? Khalifa said viciously. Ah! Shen Yuan naturally understood the principle of cutting the grass at its roots and agreed with Khalifa's statement. After getting the answer, Khalifa felt warm inside. Shen Yuan was not on guard against her at all. Isn't he afraid that I will take the opportunity to run away? Thinking of this, Khalifa was somewhat moved. He immediately chased after the girl. Chapter 29, Sunflower Manual. Having successfully eliminated the pirates from Longchain Island, the next thing to do is to do something big. Shen Yuan hesitated whether to eat the thunder fruit, but he turned his head and looked at Kyung and Enelo who were standing beside him. Come here, kid. Kyung and Enelo looked at each other and saw the fanaticism in each other's eyes. This fruit is the natural thunder fruit. Who among you wants to eat it? Enel looked at Jean, then looked at the other devil fruit, and instead of answering this question, asked another question. Brother, I want to be your disciple. Shen Yuan nodded with satisfaction and said, once you are on my ship, you are mine. I don't need trash on my ship, so you must keep making breakthroughs and progress in the future. Enelo was ecstatic and took the most important step. June, who had been silent the whole time, spoke cautiously, can I have this fruit, Captain? Of course can. Shen Yuan said this and handed the thunder fruit in his hand to Kyung. Kyung didn't act pretentiously. She took the fruit and took a bite. Crack! Kyung instantly put on a mask of pain, the feeling was indescribable. Fuck! What's that smell? I can't explain it. I've never encountered this smell since I was a child. I've never heard of it before. Really? Unheard of. This fruit is a new animal devil fruit, an ancient species. Saber-toothed tiger form, do you want to eat it, Enel? Enelo shook his head and did not take the fruit. Well, this fruit is rubbish. I'll find you a stronger devil fruit when the time comes. After saying that, he threw the devil fruit into Rayleigh's arms and waited quietly for the report. Crack, click, click. I didn't expect that silly boy Kyung actually ate the whole devil fruit. Vomit. Joan's face changed again and again, revealing an expression as if she had suffered a fierce attack. After eating the thunder fruit, Kyung's little hands were wrapped in lightning. Fierce lightning surrounded Kyung's body, making her forget her previous troubles. Boom! A bolt of lightning struck the ground violently, creating a big hole in the hard ground. This kind of power! Ha ha ha! Kyung's little face instantly brightened up, and she kept experimenting with the abilities of the devil fruit. Shen Yuan's face lit up with joy, it seemed that someone would be able to light a fire and barbecue in the future. Sir, we know the Navy base, but the Vice Admiral of the Navy headquarters seems to know what happened outside and is heading here. The big guy reported urgently, his face full of anxiety. Hey! Good! Well done! You can die now. After saying that, he stretched out his finger and left a big hole on the top of his head. Boom! The big guy fell to the ground, even looking a little anxious. I am. What's wrong with you? The flying squirrel was startled, paused, and continued. I am. You are Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel of the Marine Headquarters. May I ask what you are doing? The flying squirrel was stunned again and stood there at a loss as to what to do. No, will you let me die after pretending to be 13? No, you cannot. The flying squirrel closed his eyes tightly, trying to control his anger. What can I do for the death god Shen Yuan, who has a bounty of 630 million baileys? Ah! My bounty has increased. Shen Yuan scratched his head and looked at the flying squirrel with a puzzled look. The flying squirrel took out a bounty ticket, flipped it over and threw it towards Shen Yuan. Take it. The photo above has not changed, except that the bounty has increased by 100 million baileys. Okay, so you want to hand over the flame fruit yourself, or do I kill you and then find it myself? The flying squirrel's face darkened and he tightened the knife in his hand, ready to attack at any time. Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel, I advise you to hand over the flame fruit. The flying squirrel looked at Shen Yuan with disdain and pointed the sword at Shen Yuan. Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel, I. Before he could finish his words, the flying squirrel, which was more than 10 meters away, was suddenly hit in the abdomen by a punch. It couldn't help but spit out blood and its eyes widened. He was knocked flying by this punch, flying backwards more than 10 meters. What about you? Do you still want to arrest me? No more, sir, I know where the flame fruit is. Please follow me. 3 minutes later, Shen Yuan walked out of the naval base with the flame fruit in his hand, satisfied. Before leaving, he glanced at the unconscious flying squirrel on the ground. I told you to behave yourself, why are you being so naughty? After saying that, the group disappeared on the Longchain Island. The flying squirrel listened to Shen Yuan's ridicule and forced himself to stand up, his chest heaving up and down, blood still flowing slowly from the corner of his mouth. Report this matter to Marshal Zhangguo. The Marines nodded one after another, not daring to ask more questions, and hurried back to the naval base. After saying this, the flying squirrel almost fainted. Vomit. The flying squirrel spat out blood again. This punch was powerful enough. He just felt that all his internal organs had shifted places and were visiting other places. At the same time, Shen Yuan looked at the navigation compass with some doubts. Is this pointer broken? Shen Yuan tapped the navigation compass and almost broke it. Stop filming, there's a magnetic storm around us. Magnetic storm. Shen Yuan was stunned. He had heard of this term before. Magnetic field explosion? Illiterate? Magnetic storms are. Then Rayleigh started talking about Beidou, which made the few people feel drowsy. Okay, stop talking and hurry up. I really want to replace this broken boat. Fox's pirate ship was destroyed by Shen Yuan and disappeared on the sea, and all the treasures on it were packed up and taken away by Smoker and his men. Smoker, have you thought about it? Shen Yuan, still lying on the recliner, spoke softly. Smoker didn't answer, his eyes full of struggle. I recommend that you return to the Navy headquarters, demonstrate your abilities, and be promoted to Vice Admiral. This is your bright future. As for Dashiki, he will continue to practice swordsmanship with me for several years. Dashiki pushed her glasses and nodded. She didn't refute, but her little face flushed. So I suggest you return to the Marine headquarters and report to Sengoku what happened during our journey. Smoker was stunned, even those things have to. Of course, Zhangguo must know about that. He would know it without you telling him. Then I will. Smoker was filled with reluctance, thinking back to his past, the days of hard training, and the days when he was ordered around by Shen Yuan. The more he thought about it, the darker Smoker's face became, and in the end he even felt a little indignant. Having said that, Smoker nodded and accepted Shen Yuan's proposal. His eyes were determined as if he wanted to join the party. As my eldest disciple, I will teach you another technique. If you master this technique, you can ascend to heaven and descend to earth, and you can determine the fate of the world with a single palm. Smoker's eyes lit up and he nodded like a chick pecking at rice. Give. Shen Yuan took out a small notebook, which he had worked on overnight. Smoker took the book hopefully, and saw 4 large characters on the cover. Sunflower Manual. Turning to the first page, the 8 big words appeared in Smoker's eyes again. If you want to practice this skill, you must first castrate yourself. Smoker's face returned to its normal color, which was, of course, black. After following Shen Yuan out to sea for nearly a month, Smoker was gradually assimilated by Shen Yuan. Smiling on the face, but MMP in the heart. Ha 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 ha. Shameless laughter came and fell into Smoker's ears. Smoker couldn't help but relax and started laughing too. Okay, I won't tease you anymore. This is the one. It was another treasure book, which recorded Shen Yuan's insights into haki and the 6 styles of the Navy. For example, how can an iron block be moved, combined with the finger gun and the foot? Others include the combination of shave and moon step, as well as the specific methods of guiding armament haki, and so on. Smoker closed the book with gratitude and bowed deeply to Shen Yuan. Thank you for your careful teaching, Master. I will not let you down. After saying this, Smoker prepared to leave. But Shen Yuan refused to do it. Will you move all these treasures before you leave? Chapter 30. A mysterious man appears. The first month of the year is the new year. Shen Yuan was humming a little tune while holding the Den Den mushi and listening to the chattering report from the person on the other side. Understood. Shen Yuan hung up the phone and looked at the sea with a far-reaching gaze. There is some interesting information from Crocodile. The world government has sent members of CP6 to contact us. The question now is, do we get rid of them or leave them alone? Rayleigh looked at him again with wise eyes. Without any hesitation, you can infiltrate. Shen Yuan smiled, this Rayleigh really has a good brain. What means should be used? Kidnap and extort or torture and extract all valuable information from them. Rayleigh smiled, life and death are unpredictable. Khalifa listened to Rayleigh's story and instantly recalled some bad scenes. Okay, let's go to the 7 Waters City and make some noise. Everyone nodded, and of course Khalifa also nodded mechanically, falling into a hellish memory. Just as everyone was thinking about it, Shen Yuan suddenly jumped into the sea under a group of astonished gazes. It disappeared without a trace in an instant. Everyone was speechless, not knowing what to say as they watched Shen Yuan disappear. In no time, Shen Yuan slowly emerged from the sea holding a tuna, and climbed up step by grabbing the boat's fence. Dashiki, let's have braised fish today. Dashiki had a strange expression on her face, her eyes seemed to be asking something. Teriyaki tuna? Although she thought so, Dashiki nodded and dragged the tuna into the kitchen. Looks like we need to find a chef. Speaking of chefs, a place instantly appeared in Shen Yuan's mind. Bharati. Bharati restaurant on the sea. After all, it's a check-in spot, so why not go there? Shen Yuan fell into deep thought again. Is Zeph still on the Grand Line? Maybe he still has to go through hardships. After finishing his thoughts, Shen Yuan put his arms around Khalifa's slender waist and pulled her into his arms. Why is our beauty unhappy? Don't worry, you won't see these scenes again in the future. After he finished speaking, Shen Yuan gave Khalifa's rosy face a gentle kiss. Khalifa's face turned even redder, and she couldn't help but shyly said, "Boss, this is sexual harassment." Puff. Rayleigh's face also turned red, and he quickly turned his head to look at the sea. I didn't expect that even at my old age, I could still see such a rough way of flirting with girls, mouth technique. At this moment, Kyan was staring at a medical book with a serious look on her face, secretly praising it as she read, "What an excellent medical technique. Kid, go train with Enelu, or I'll beat you to death." Kyan was startled, closed the book, and instantly walked to Enelu's side, doing horse stance with him. Horse stance is the first step of Shen Yuan's special training. The second step is naturally to stand in a horse stance and hit the wooden stake. The third step is to follow the training method of Old Man Garp and throw them directly into the sea for training or actual combat. But now that Kyan has eaten the fruit, there are no decent pirate groups around, and Shen Yuan doesn't know what training method to use. Thinking about it carefully, he was more confident about Kyan's strength. Even if he has not learned Haki, the power of the thunder fruit is enough to deal with or even defeat him. But he doesn't need useless people who are only good at one subject on his ship. As for myself, whether it's fighting, kicking, swordsmanship or fruit, we can talk about the results later, of course. I have no weaknesses and am a true hexagonal warrior. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan was certain. Training Joan in the same way as training Dashiki is also a great method. Dashiki's training method is relatively gentle. First, it trains willpower by doing handstands for several days in a row. The second is to increase strength, constantly temper the body, and surpass yourself. The last step is to guide the armed color. Shen Yuan already has a perfect system for guiding the armed color. First you must be a human being, second you have hands and feet, and finally you have this belief. After Shen Yuan's beating, basically, you can bring out the armed color domineering. Of course, it depends on the person. If it is a weak woman, Shen Yuan might be gentler. Looking at the people in front of him doing horse stance steadily, he started tinkering with the system again. After adding all the skill points to the speed bonus, the speed was approaching the peak, which made Shen Yuan scratch his head instantly. A feeling of discomfort. It's so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. It's so uncomfortable, so uncomfortable. Khalifa looked at Shen Yuan who had a mad face, and a question mark popped up in her head. Shen Yuan silently put away the system panel with a deep look in his eyes. The design drawings of the ancient weapon Pluto are in the Seven Waters City. The voice was not loud, but the news made everyone present slightly stunned. How do you know? Rayleigh sat up from another recliner and looked at Shen Yuan with burning eyes. Let me ask you a question. If you have the power to fight against the world government, will you go to war with it? Rayleigh closed his eyes and thought for a full minute before speaking tremblingly. If possible, this move surpasses Roger's achievements and is enough to shock the whole world. Enel's expression was shocked at first, then changed to one of reverence. The warlike genes in the body are faintly jumping. Do you think you are strong enough to fight against the world government now? No, 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 I'm not that conceited. The revolution has not yet succeeded, you still need to work hard. But, this doesn't mean I can't have ancient weapons in the future? Those things are just a burden to me. This sentence was like a bolt from the blue. They understood at this moment. They really understood it. Well said. The sky was covered with dark clouds, and flashes of lightning were looming in the air. A breeze blew towards everyone. Everyone looked up. A man was wearing a green robe, and his face could not be seen clearly. You can tell just by looking at his standing posture, how terribly powerful he is. The mysterious man landed on the boat and landed steadily on the deck. The aura he exuded was exactly the same as Shen Yuan's. I know your deeds. Keep shining, indomitable revolutionary. As he finished speaking, a den mushi fell into Shen Yuan's hands. He clenched the den mushi in his hand. Although he was usually boastful, he looked a little solemn at this moment. Please take good care of me, senior. The mysterious man smiled and said, Comrade, we will fight side by side one day. After that, lightning flashed and thunder roared. The dark clouds gradually dissipated, and the mysterious man who had just stood on the deck disappeared. Everyone stood there in a daze. This scene is deeply imprinted in their hearts. Rayleigh was shocked at first, but then he understood something. A ray of light flashed across his glasses. Then he said, the person who just came, could it be? Shen Yuan didn't say anything, just looked at the den mushi in front of him thoughtfully. I think it's time to give the world government a warning. Shen Yuan opened his mouth, put away the den mushi, and clenched his fist slightly. A surge of momentum suddenly erupted. A strong aura enveloped the entire sea area, and all the sea kings in the waters around the ship floated on the sea surface. What's your plan? Rayleigh whispered. I have an immature idea. Explain it. Dry. Rayleigh. In fact, Shen Yuan did have a rough plan, a crazy move. This may bring about fatal disaster. Then I won't ask any more. Just figure it out yourself. After saying that, Rayleigh continued to lie on the recliner and leisurely read a pornographic book, making strange hee-hee laughter while reading. You look like a pervert to me. Rayleigh rolled his eyes at Shen Yuan and continued to read the pornographic book in his hand. Shen Yuan looked into the distance at the horizon. At this moment, his thoughts were drifting away and feeling very heavy. She is so graceful. Boss, you are sexually harassing me. Khalifa only felt that her thighs were being ravaged. Chapter 31. Pain. It hurts so much. Reach the 7 water capitals and obtain 5 skill points. Shen Yuan looked at the 5-point skill bonus and fell into ecstasy. Because with these 5 skills you can break through the level cap. Rapid distribution, the speed also changed suddenly. Speedy body, 100/100, when using speed enhancing skills, the body's movement speed is fully enhanced, and the physical strength consumed when traveling long distances is halved. Complete the breakthrough mission. The current level cap is 100. Get staged rewards, ability absorption, can absorb devil fruits and transform them into skills. This function will occupy the 5 free skill slots opened after level 80. Wipe. A loud roar was heard, and Khalifa pulled back the arm that she had been holding on to Shen Yuan, with a dazed look on her face. What the hell? What the hell? At this moment, Shen Yuan felt so regretful. Thunder fruit, that is the thunder fruit. Why do you have to pretend to be a batch and give it to your own crew? Nima. I must get the dark fruit. If gods stand in my way, I will kill them. If Buddha stands in my way, I will kill him. That's what I said. Having said that, Shen Yuan quickened his pace, leaving everyone behind. Everyone? Master, have you been a little sick lately? Dashiki asked gloomily. Indeed, it's like a mental illness. Rayleigh complained. Kyung and Enel complained in their hearts, only you can say this, if I say this. A month's worth of training could fit into one day. Putting aside his disappointed thoughts, Shen Yuan rushed straight to the shipyard of the 7-water city, ready to use the 3 or 4 tons of gold to build an unparalleled warship. Move forward quickly one step at a time to the vicinity of the shipyard. At a glance, I saw 2 children arguing about something. Little devil! Come here, uncle will give you candy. Shen Yuan smiled and waved to the 2 little kids. Frankie and Iceberg looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Is this person a human trafficker? Bing Shan pondered. But Frankie walked up to Shen Yuan carelessly and started talking to him. Are you a human trafficker, you bastard? If you meet us today, you will be. Before he could finish his words, Shen Yuan knocked Frankie unconscious with a knife. Little devil, come here, uncle will give you some candy. Bingshan's body trembled and he was too scared to move. Moved? Answer, I dare not move. Sir, what do you need? You. Bingshan didn't dare to say anything more because he saw an emotion called greed in Shen Yuan's eyes. Take me to Tom. After saying that, Bing Shan didn't dare to be careless. He glanced at the fainted Frankie and couldn't help but shiver again. This way, sir. After that, everyone followed him one by one and headed straight for the room where Tom was. Frankie woke up slowly after falling at the door and looked around with a dazed face. What's wrong with me? A light bulb went off in Frankie's head. Yes, that's right. That guy hit me just now. He even knocked me out. Frankie instantly became angry and embarrassed. He kept turning his head and searching around for Shen Yuan. I'm going to beat that bastard up when I find him. Frankie stomped his feet in anger. Besides, the culprit Shen Yuan is already sitting in front of Tom. With his arms folded, he stretched out his legs and placed them on the table. The expression on his face was very arrogant. Sir, what is your name? Your surname is Shen Yuan. Tom nodded. I'm Tom, what do you want? Shen Yuan did not mention the matter of Pluto for the time being, but waved to Kaiang beside him. Clang! A large bag of golden bell fragments was placed on the table by Joan, shining luxuriously under the office lights. Weigh this gold. We are going to build a ship that can sail around the world. Tom's reaction was not very intense, but this scene made Iceberg beside him excited to death. Sir, you said you wanted to build a ship. Then Frankie. Before he could finish his words, Bing Shan seemed to realize something and shut his mouth instantly. Tom raised his eyebrows and asked, What? Nothing, nothing. Bing Shan evaded the question with a wry smile. Sir, I'll take your business, but it may take a long time, this. Don't worry about that. Now I have something I want to talk to Mr. Tom about. Tom raised his eyebrows again and looked at Bing Shan, but finally let him leave the office temporarily. Shen Yuan also gave Dashiki a look, and several people followed suit and left the room all at once. Now, can you tell me what's the matter? Shen Yuan shook his head. Yes, there are ears. Tom was stunned and began to look around the surrounding environment. As he looked around, a loud bang sound was heard instantly. Little mouse, did I catch you? Shen Yuan smiled and smashed the wall behind him with his big hand. Grabbing a CP6 member by the neck, he threw him to the ground with a smile. He stepped heavily on his back. Puff! A large amount of blood spurted out, staining a large area of the floor red. Wow! CP was picked up by Shen Yuan again, with murderous intent in his eyes. But after thinking again, he spoke gloomily. Why did the world government send you here? CP refused to speak and kept his mouth shut. Enaludaski, come in. Everyone, search for intelligence members in the surrounding area. If you see one, cripple him. Do you understand? The door slowly opened, and Enel and Tashiji came in together. At first glance, they saw the CP member with blood on his face, who was trying hard to struggle out of Shen Yuan's big hand. Enelu, have you ever killed anyone? Enelu trembled all over, this day had finally come. Tom was a little frightened. This scene happened so quickly that it left a deep impression on his young mind. Ahem, you heinous criminal, by killing me, are you planning to declare war on the world government? He smiled slightly and said, everyone who has said this to me in the past has passed the 7th day of his death. What's the 7th day? The CP members shook their heads and clenched their teeth tightly. Today he will be a martyr. Die for his country. What a tough guy. As he spoke, Shen Yuan pulled out Tashiji's shijer. The knife was inserted squarely into his waist. What? A scream came out of the office, instantly attracting most of the boatmen, who rushed over here. When the boatmen arrived at Tom's office, suddenly I saw Bing Shan standing at the door, bewildered. At this moment, his forehead was covered with cold sweat, and he was staring at the scene in the cat's eye. Master Iceberg, what's wrong? Bing Shan turned around and made a hush gesture, signaling everyone to stay calm. This scene made the boatmen extremely curious, and they all crowded up. Shen Yuan had already noticed the movement outside, and couldn't help but turn his head to look at Tom. He understood instantly, walked out of the room and began to evacuate the people outside. It's quiet outside, but not inside. What? 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 There were screams coming from the room, it was heart-wrenching. Pain. It hurts so much. Painful. At this moment, the room looked like an execution room. CP was completely embedded in the wall, with dozens of bloody cuts on his waist and abdomen. Chapter 32, Ahoy! Keep talking. Despite being tortured severely by several people, this CP member still did not speak. It's really tough. Shen Yuan put down the knife and reached out to get a toothpick from the desk. That's right, toothpicks. The toothpick instantly covered with armed color domineering. An ordinary toothpick suddenly burst out with a momentum that it will never be able to burst out again in its entire life. Toothpick, did you see that, Grandpa? I have brought honor to my family in this life. The toothpick followed the trajectory of Shen Yuan's force and was pushed hard. He directly inserted it between CP's fingers. A scream was heard again. What? CP only felt a piercing pain flowing from the top of his head to the soles of his feet, and finally gathered in his heart. As we all know, the fingers are connected to the heart. I don't ask you for anything, let's play a game. I ask questions and you answer them. If you are wrong, I will stab you. If you are right, I will let you go. CP didn't say anything, but stared at Shen Yuan with a look that was a little bit resentful and a little bit fearful. Captain, this. Joan was holding an unconscious CP member in her hands, and just a glance at the scene inside. In an instant, he fell from the clouds to the bottom of the valley. Captain, I. Tashiji and Khalifa also arrived late, and the CP members in their hands fell to the ground, and the scene was repeated. Khalifa, wait outside. Everyone must cross this hurdle. Khalifa was stunned. But then he shook his head at Shen Yuan. Take 2 quick steps. In an instant, he came behind Shen Yuan. Well, just stand aside and don't make any noise. Khalifa nodded and took his arm. Shen Yuan ignored everyone and took out the Supreme Signature Lottery and waved it in front of the CP members. Let me ask you, who is the child of Bull Demon King and Princess Iron Fan? The latter was stunned and began to think. Seeing that the other party did not answer, Shen Yuan held out the supreme sign. He stabbed the second finger of his left hand hard. What? Okay, next question, black cat or white cat, which cat can catch mice? CP was stunned again. This outrageous question made him even forget the pain. Maybe. Without waiting for CP to answer. A finger was penetrated hard by a toothpick again. What? Why don't you ask me some questions that I know the answers to? Shen Yuan nodded and fell into deep thought as he looked at the toothpick in his hand. You asked me what I would do. Ask me what I would do. Shen Yuan nodded again, indicating that he understood. You said, if a child born from a special ability user and another special ability user has a physique that can eat 2 devil fruits. CP? Well. You know what, it's not impossible, right? What if the gene mutates? The toothpick easily pierced the 4th finger of my left hand, and the piercing pain gathered from the fingertips to the heart. What? CP cried, they really cried this time, their tears couldn't stop sliding down their faces, they looked very sad. Can you please ask me some questions that normal people can answer? Okay, then tell me all the information you know. Especially the little tricks of the world government, and the mission you are about to perform. CP was overjoyed, and he opened his mouth wide and spilled everything like pouring beans. Our main mission is to monitor you. Another mission is to investigate the base of the Revolutionary Army, A&D. Stop talking. One of his teammates couldn't help but yell. I'm giving you face, right? A toothpick was ejected by Shen Yuan skillfully. The toothpick went into its mouth at a very fast speed. Just go straight through. The speaker didn't respond at that time. I shut up for no apparent reason, and it hurt for no apparent reason. Go on. There was no toothpick this time, so Shen Yuan replaced it with a fruit knife on the desk next to him. CP did not dare to neglect it and continued to speak in fear. The 5 elders are very afraid of you now, so they sent us to monitor you. Yet. Keep going. Also, we have another mission this time, which is for the Operation Fruit. Yet. Keep going. That's all we have to do. I don't know what else to do. Yet, keep talking. My 3rd uncle's brother-in-law is getting married today, I'm going to take a look. Ahoy, keep going. Shen Yuan's face darkened as he continued to speak. I still have a cigar in my pocket that I bought yesterday but haven't smoked yet. You can take it. Ahoy, keep going. Shen Yuan stood up, and the fruit knife in his hand slowly turned black. CP watched as the fruit knife was stabbing towards his thigh. A piercing pain swept over him again, causing him to roar uncontrollably. Oh. Keep talking. If you don't satisfy me, I'll chop you into more than 3,000 pieces and throw you into the sea to feed the fish. Worthy. Why can you say such cold words from your mouth at 37 degrees? What can be said is that? CP's brain couldn't help but start working at high speed, and began to think about valuable information. I know. I know. Do you want to get the design drawings of Pluto? We have another mission. This trip is to go undercover in the Seven Water City. The world government suspects that the blueprints for Pluto's creation are hidden in the Seven Waters City. Yet. Keep going. You better keep stabbing me. As soon as this word comes out, the whole place fell into a dead silence. You could hear a pin drop. Remember the game I played with you before? I asked questions and you answered them. If I'm not satisfied, I'll cut off a piece. If I'm satisfied, I'll paste it on you. CP6, what the hell are you sticking on there? But he still struggled and nodded. Hehe, how many intelligence units does the world government have? Ahem, ahem. The world government has the highest ruling power in the world. It also has other CP members under its control, namely CP-19. CP-9 has been destroyed, and is now trying to recruit new members. Shen Yuan nodded in satisfaction and continued to ask. Besides this, are there any other special forces? CP thought for a moment before continuing to explain. Ahem, the Gods Guards under the world government. In addition, there are the Palace Guards, the 12 Divine Guards, the 12 Divine Guards. Ahem, most of them have powerful animal-type devil fruits, and their duty is to protect the safety of Marijoa at all times. Shen Yuan nodded, very satisfied. Tell me, where is the Golden Lion? Hey, I really don't know about this. Because of the Golden Lion's special abilities, we haven't yet found its location. Shen Yuan was satisfied, turned around and clapped his hands. Enelu understood and took the knife from Shen Yuan's hand, trembling and not daring to move. Hurry up and let him go peacefully. As soon as these words were spoken, CP6's frown instantly relaxed, as if he was in a state of relief. Shen Yuan turned his back to the CP6 members and waved his hand. Then he walked out of the room without saying a word. Do it. Enelu held the fruit knife tremblingly and closed his eyes tightly. A knife suddenly stabbed towards his neck. A large amount of blood spurted out instantly, and the CP member who was already dying also passed away peacefully at this moment. What? Enel dropped the fruit knife in panic and fell to the ground with a thump. Blood, it's blood. Enel's expression gradually turned into fear. How can you become stronger if your hands are not stained with the blood of the enemy? Without further ado, Joan gave another intelligence member a heavy kick. Immediately afterwards, another storm kick flew out quickly. This storm kick attacked fiercely, cutting the opponent in half. Wow! Blood flowed out in large amounts, staining the entire floor red. Chapter 33. Goodbye Zifa. In. Tom was very nervous and felt frightened when he saw Shen Yuan standing in front of him. It's okay. They are all here to monitor me. As soon as these words came out, everyone looked at Shen Yuan in shock. There was silence in the room for a long time, and you could hear a pin drop. After a moment, Tom finally responded. Well, please follow me. After taking a look at the people who were executing the intelligence members, Shen Yuan turned around and left. A moment later, in a dark room, Tom and Shen Yuan sat on the floor. Tom was the first to ask, Sir, can you explain the situation to me? Shen Yuan heard this and hesitated for a moment. Only then did he begin to tell Tom about his glorious achievements. Is that so? After listening to the whole story, Tom looked at Shen Yuan meaningfully. The former continued. I know you've been sentenced to death. I have a suggestion that may save your life. Light suddenly burst out in Tom's eyes. But then he returned to normal, smiled and said. A real man should face all the responsibilities calmly. Shen Yuan raised his eyebrows after hearing this. You're just going to abandon Frankie and Iceberg and die in the conspiracy of the world government. Tom was silent. Blind student, you discovered Hua Dian. The former continued. Before that, you must explain some things. Even if you want to protect some things for your whole life, the world government will not allow you to do so. Looking at Tom's astonished face, Shen Yuan was not in a hurry and continued to speak slowly. I know you have something incredible in your hands. Once this kind of thing falls into the hands of the world government, it will be difficult to get it back. The former began to speak incessantly. The words were like the devil's whispers, constantly attacking Tom's heart. Now, I need an answer. After saying this, he stared at Tom. Ugh. Tom thought for a moment and sighed heavily, then slowly said. I do have the design drawings of the ancient weapon Pluto. Excuse me, but who are you exactly? What identity? Shen Yuan smiled and said, he's just an ordinary adventurer. An adventurer? The former Roger seemed very similar to you. When Tom said this, some memories suddenly came back to him. I have a very mature plan. Tom was slightly stunned and nodded, like a child who was listening obediently. I don't care how you want to die, but you have to build my ship first. Tom. Don't worry, I will definitely build this boat well. A real man should be responsible for the boat he builds. I am proud that Roger sailed around the world with the boat I built. Shen Yuan waved his hand nonchalantly, not very excited. Instead, he looked at Tom as if he was a fool. This gaze made him feel a little embarrassed. I have no idea about Pluto for now, but he cannot fall into the hands of the world government. So you now have two tasks, one is to protect this blueprint, and the most important thing is to build my ship. Tom nodded without retorting. After you die, I will ensure that the world government does not cause trouble for your two disciples. This is my sincerity. Cooperation achieved. Tom agreed. So, why don't you start building a ship? At this time, Tom's office. Dashiki and the others were sitting on the sofa, quietly watching Bing Shan directing the boatman to clean up the room. Oh! The door was opened, and Shen Yuan sat down on the swivel chair after entering. He said nothing and just waited quietly for someone. Bing Shan was cursing inwardly, but he didn't even know to close the door. He walked to the door and slowly closed it. Subsequently, oh! There was another sound of the door opening, and Tom came in late with a blueprint in his arms. Bing Shan was speechless for a while, his little face turned dark. The door is closed. Excuse me, how about this blueprint? Tom smiled and handed the blueprint to Shen Yuan. The latter took the drawing and looked at it while appreciating the contents on it carefully. Good. Really good. What a clever design, it's beyond compare, it's truly beyond compare. Tom smiled and seemed to be very pleased with Shen Yuan's praise. Okay, you can go do it. What? It seems like I have become a subordinate? Tom thought so, nodded woodenly, and walked out of the room slowly. After finishing the matter of the ship, Shen Yuan finally had time to chat about family matters. Shen Yuan asked, how long has Smoker been gone? Dashiki began to think after hearing this, and after a moment she said, it's been nearly a week. It's been a week since we reached the marine headquarters. Are we on our way to death? At the same time, Smoker was driving a small boat, floating on the sea with a dazed look on his face. Ah, sneeze. Smoker sneezed, sniffed, and shook his head. Is it cold? Smoker couldn't help but put on the coat beside him and looked at the sea shivering. Oh damn, I'm not going to get lost and die here, am I? As he was thinking, Smoker caught a glimpse of a ship sailing slowly on the sea in the distance. On the deck was an old man with grey hair and wearing a navy cloak. Old man! Old man! Smoker stood up and waved his hands hurriedly, waving quickly towards the battleship. Hey! Old man! Old man! The ship seemed to have noticed Smoker. The old man raised his eyes and the ship changed direction and quickly approached Smoker. Oh my god! Smoker! Is that Smoker? Smorg! It's Smoker! The moment the trainee marines on the ship saw Smoker, there are surprises and joys, but more importantly, it is the joy of reunion after a long separation. These people rushed to greet Smoker. Teacher Zifa! Smoker opened his mouth in surprise. This was the first time he saw his teacher look so old. The state at this moment is completely different from the state I taught myself before. At this moment, he seemed to be 10 years older, with an untidy beard, making Smoker feel that this man was about to be buried. Zephyr, who is 62 years old, folded his arms and stared at Smoker, and Smoker did the same. The two just stared at each other in silence for a long time. Smoker, I heard you ran away from your post. Zephyr looked serious as he examined Smoker. Teacher Zifa, Smoker, your aura is different now than before. Zephyr continued to speak. Teacher Zifa, I actually went there to gain experience and train myself before following. As he spoke, Zifa took out a wanted poster, and the portrait on it was exactly Shen Yuan's. The death god Shen Yuan just went out to sea with a bounty of over 500 million for a newcomer, but I didn't expect that he would kidnap our vice-admiral. After this was said, no one spoke. Smoker, tell me how you feel. Smoker nodded and said, he is a man who can distinguish right from wrong, hates evil and never shows mercy. But he is just a bit ridiculous, and he doesn't seem to care about the forces of all parties. Hearing these words, Zifa's originally serious old face relaxed instantly. Hate evil. The former admiral of the marine headquarters, who was known as the Unkillable, had never been as powerless as he was now. His family was killed by pirates and he began to hate pirates. Where is he now? Zifa asked calmly. Maybe this Kung Fu has already reached the Seven Water City. Zifa nodded, reached out his hand and pulled Smoker onto the battleship. So, you're still a marine, right? Smoker nodded silently, slowly took out a cigar and began to smoke. Chapter 34, The Great God Weismog. Seven Waters Shipyard. At this time, Shen Yuan was holding a lunchbox and eating the food in front of him. Ahoy! While eating the food bite by bite, Shen Yuan looked around from time to time. Ha 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 ha! Mr. Loudspeaker, your ship has already begun construction. Shen Yuan nodded and put the lunchbox on the ground. After so many days, Shen Yuan discovered a major problem. Where's Rayleigh? Shen Yuan's head was full of question marks and his face was full of confusion. Rayleigh? I didn't see him yesterday. Tom was also very confused. Forget it, it doesn't matter if the old man doesn't look for it. Having said that, Shen Yuan stopped dwelling on the matter and smiled slightly. Just as the two were chatting, there was a loud explosion from the port in the distance. Boom! This sound should be the sound of a shell exploding, right? The pirates are coming! The pirates are coming! Run! It's a pirate! The crowd suddenly fell into panic. All the residents of the Seven Water City began to flee in all directions. Shen Yuan felt very emotional when watching this scene. Such scenes often happened since he went to sea. Are you interested in going to take a look? Shen Yuan said to Tom charmingly. Of course, I am not afraid of any pirates. After saying that, the two of them rushed to the port together. At this time, the port of the Seven Waters City. The Navy is launching a fierce attack on this group of pirates. As expected, he is Captain Is who has returned from the New World. He really lives up to his name. Zifa swung his fists and taunted his opponent. Humph, you old man, go to hell. The pirate group led by Is had just returned to the Grand Line from the New World. The ship was damaged and we wanted to go to the Seven Waters City to repair it. As luck would have it, I met Zifa and his group here. At this time, the trainee marines behind Zifa were rubbing their hands, ready to show their fighting skills. My students, try to protect yourselves. Don't die here. Everyone heard Zifa's roar, and they couldn't help but shiver all over. Is that armament haki? That's the same armament haki as Zephyr Sensei. Someone in the crowd shouted. I was already extremely nervous, and now I'm even more nervous. Smoker's face turned black. If you saw it, why did you say it out loud? Do you want to boost the pirates' morale? Saying. A figure holding a knife in his hand. The blade flashed with cold light as it chopped straight towards the new sprouts of the Navy. The trainee marine looked at the bloody battlefield in front of him and felt his hands and feet go cold. His whole body was shaking like a sieve. Oh! The long sword in the figure's hand collided with another weapon, and there was a sound of metal clashing. Chiang! Tina doesn't like her companions being killed. She really doesn't like it. Hinata held the long sword in her hand, pushed the figure back fiercely, and gasped while holding the hilt of the sword. Hey, hey! What a nice girl! Tie you back to the boat and let the brothers have some fun. The two figures intertwined, and the sound of jingling continued to be heard. It's hot outside. But Shen Yuan was squatting on the shore, eating a handful of popcorn in his hand. Old Tang, what do you think of that little girl? Tom frowned and kept looking. Didn't you see it? I think that boy is pretty good. That's right, Teacher Tang was pointing at Smoker. At this time, Smoker showed his power. With 10 hands covered with armament haki, he stabbed everyone one by one and shuttled back and forth on the battlefield. Boom! A pirate was knocked into the sea by Smoker and returned to the embrace of Mother Ocean like a young swallow returning to its nest. Tina. Smoker's body turned into smoke and swooped down rapidly, with smoke all around him. Tina was fighting fiercely with the figure and was slightly at a disadvantage. Just when Tina was losing strength, the long knife whistled and slashed towards her. Ding! Another sound of metal clashing was heard. Fuck! A hero saving a beautiful girl. Shen Yuan was stunned and didn't notice that most of the popcorn in his hand had been taken away by Lao Tang. Where's my popcorn? Shen Yuan looked at Tom. The two of them were arguing with each other and didn't take the fight seriously at all. Boy, why don't you run? Several pirates have already landed, and their heads are burning with worry when they see the two people fighting. Makabeka, we are fighting in the front, are we here to perform shadow play for you? As he was thinking about it, the little minion died. Yes, just die. He was killed instantly by Shen Yuan's compressed finger gun. When he was dying, the little minion seemed to be grinning as if he wanted to say something. Nobody, spit out my popcorn, spit it out. Tom was grabbed by the neck by Shen Yuan and shaken for a while. He felt like his brains were almost shaken apart. At this moment, Smoker blocked the attack from that figure, and his right hand was suddenly covered with armament haki. Instantly, the dark-armed color was domineering. The punch was fierce and attacked the opponent's abdomen fiercely. Oh! It was knocked more than 10 meters away by Smoker, and its head was stuck on the brick ground on the distant coast. Boom! Rubble flew everywhere, the surrounding ground cracked, and there was instant silence. Tina, are you okay? Thank you, Tina, thank you. Tina looked at Smoker in surprise. What surprised him was not Smoker's heroic rescue of the beauty, but his armed color domineering. Just sneaking away for more than a month, and you already mastered armament haki? Give me a dozen of this good stuff. Tina? Tina? Smoker looked at the dazed Tina, shook his head, turned around and flew towards where Zephyr was. Oh! Another loud noise. Zephyr and Smoker worked together to blast Is in front of them dozens of meters away. Is only felt his head dizzy, and when his consciousness gradually blurred, he suddenly activated the ability of the fruit. Massive explosion! Massive explosion? What does that mean? Yis grinned with his bloody mouth, and even before his death he did not forget to act arrogantly. This is my fruit ability, the explosion fruit. My aura was left on all of you just now, and it is enough to blow all of you up to the sky. Yis grinned, took out another pill and prepared to swallow it. At this moment, everyone was panicked. As expected, he is a pirate from the New World. Can he actually control the explosion of breath? Although it is still useful for ordinary people, it is like hitting a stone with an egg for a strong person. Tina opened her mouth, and just as she came to her senses from her daze, she fell into another daze. The breath exploded. If it really exploded, all the trainee marines on the ship would be in great danger. Smoker gritted his teeth, but could do nothing. The teacher didn't teach us this. This kind of scene. The teacher didn't teach us this. Zifa was also covered in cold sweat, and was approaching Is quickly with the moon step. Oh! A huge force penetrated his chest, and the breath that was about to explode suddenly shrank and returned to calm. An extremely fierce attack suddenly appeared, and then suddenly pulled out. Beat Is through and through. Oh! Is fell into the sea and died instantly. Shen Yuan landed on the deck of the naval ship and greeted Tina with a smile. Hello, Tina. Steadying himself, Shen Yuan shouted at Smoker. In this case, the caster should be killed. Do you understand? Chapter 35. Shen Yuan vs Zifa. The battle is over. Zifa commanded a group of marines to clean up the messy scene, and turned his head to look at Shen Yuan. You are the master who taught Smoker haki, right? Shen Yuan nodded. This was the second strong man that Shen Yuan admired. The family of the veteran user of armament haki, the admiral known as Non-Kill, was killed by pirates. Ridiculous and sad. Hello General Zifa, nice to meet you, my name is Shen Yuan. Zifa was slightly stunned. Very polite kid. Hello, I am no longer a general. Zifa held Shen Yuan's hand tightly and kept looking at Shen Yuan. But why do you know me? I have heard of General Zifa's reputation many times from my grandfather. Zifa slapped his forehead and said, that's right. This is Cap's grandson. Is that so, Shen Yuan kid, you are a wanted criminal now, do you know that? Shen Yuan's face darkened, but he still nodded. Then you dare to stand on the deck of a naval ship? Of course, I'm sure General Zephyr can tell right from wrong. Zifa was very pleased with the compliment and smiled happily as soon as he opened his mouth. Looking at the old man with the vicissitudes of life, he is laughing easily at this moment. Everyone's heart seemed to be touched. Little ghost, your bounty is very high. What on earth have you done? Zifa frowned slightly and stared at Shen Yuan in front of him. Nothing, just killed a few people. Zifa frowned even deeper. Who? It seems that Zifa will not give up until he gets an explanation today. It doesn't matter. Shen Yuan doesn't care about any taboos. As the saying goes, too many lice won't itch. Killed several intelligence members. Why? Zifa was shocked at first, but he quickly suppressed his emotion and continued to ask. Because they wanted to kill me, I killed him. Is this a crime? The voice is not loud, but the confidence is full. This is confidence. This is the confidence that comes from strength. If anyone dares to have any bad intentions towards me, don't blame me for being ruthless. Zifa's frown slowly relaxed. Based on the nature of the world government, it was not impossible. The first situation is that Shen Yuan's strength is too strong and has attracted the fear of the world government. The second possibility is that what Shen Yuan did touched the interests of the world government. Anyway, thank you today. You saved the future of an entire navy. Zifa scratched his head and said embarrassedly. General Zifa, there is no need to do this. I saved my own beliefs. Zifa took a deep breath. Hearing these words, he instantly recalled memories from a few years ago. He is also a man of justice who helps the dying and the wounded, and even pirates can't bear to kill him. Why do you want to kill all the pirates? Zifa was a little confused, and this was also a knot in his heart. Pirates? Those who commit heinous crimes should be killed. Zifa just listened quietly, very seriously. So why do you think they want to go out to sea as pirates? Of course, I still admire some pirate groups, such as Roger, Whitebeard, etc. After finishing speaking, Zifa's eyes sparkled when he heard that. According to what you said, there is another term for pirates, which is adventurers. Correct. Shen Yuan smiled faintly. I want to go out to sea and explore this world, but I don't have to go out to sea as a pirate, right? Admiral Zifa. Zifa nodded. Maybe this is your dream. I will keep what you said in mind. After saying this, the marines behind Zifa looked at Shen Yuan with admiration. Especially Tina, her mouth is so wide that you can fit an apple in it. Kid, are you very good at armament hacky? Zifa became interested and started chatting with Shen Yuan. My energy is beyond your imagination. Zifa? As he spoke, Shen Yuan raised his hand. The fist was suddenly covered with extremely compressed armament hacky. This was not the end yet. Circles of dark mist quickly climbed up. Immediately afterwards, black and white lightning appeared. Overlord color entanglement. Zifa stood up suddenly, his face full of shock. No, 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 I call it the sky blackening, earth shattering, mountain shattering, and everything destroying fist of a tiger descending from the mountain and roaring like a tsunami. Zephyr. Smoker. Tina. Everyone. The whole place was silent, and everyone was stunned. After saying this, Shen Yuan suddenly stood up. An extremely fierce momentum burst out. Then, Shen Yuan flew high into the sky, hovering above the sea with his moon steps, and his black fist suddenly landed on the sea. The huge force collided with the boundless sea. Make a loud noise. Boom. A huge wave was blown up in an instant, and water splashed down from the sky, landing on everyone. The sea water within a radius of 10 kilometers was suppressed by the pressure. The surrounding sea water can't even fill the gap. This huge force suddenly blasted a big hole on the sea surface. When Zifa saw this scene, he shuddered all over. Zifa was speechless for a moment, but still spoke to Shen Yuan. Little devil, let's have a competition. As he spoke, Zifa took a step forward and suddenly landed on the railing of the battleship. Okay. It's exactly what Shen Yuan wanted. Boom. The two fists collided with each other, causing ripples. Zifa dodged Shen Yuan's punch with a deft move. A big swing punch came out, but Shen Yuan ducked down to avoid it. He grabbed Zifa's body with both hands and threw him backwards suddenly. Both sides landed steadily on the shore, now both in a fighting stance. Are you ready, General Zephyr? Zifa smiled slightly and walked forward quickly. With one hand, he thrust out a tentative straight punch quickly, like a sharp dagger. Shen Yuan dodged sideways, grabbed Zifa's arm, and put one hand around his waist. Don't let your right foot turn toward Zephyr's right foot. Mongolian wrestling. Zifa was thrown heavily to the ground, with stars in his eyes. He did not dare to be careless and adjusted his posture instantly. The right hand was suddenly covered with armed color, and another straight punch attacked. Shen Yuan smiled slightly, and used this force to step on his arm. He suddenly stepped on his chest. The other kick went towards his chin. Oh! Zifa was hit on the chin by this kick, but fortunately he had covered himself with armament haki in advance and it was not a big deal. He wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and suddenly burst into laughter. Ha ha ha! That's a powerful kick! Zifa shook his head, and a popping sound came out of his body. Its body speed suddenly increased. A jab! As fast as lightning. Like a madman. Even so, Shen Yuan still managed to dodge it skillfully. He threw a fierce punch and stabbed at his chin again. Zifa also dodged and imitated Shen Yuan's movements. He hugged his waist and wanted to perform Mongolian wrestling. Successful. Zifa hugged his waist and pulled hard. It didn't move. At this moment, Shen Yuan seemed to be welded to the ground, standing still. Oh! The elbow landed hard on Zifa's lower back, knocking him to the ground instantly. Boom! Feeling the severe pain in his waist and abdomen, Zifa could no longer support his old body. Zifa fell to the ground with a thud, shook his head, and smiled bitterly. Defeat the plot character Zifa and increase your level to level 82. Hey, the system that has been silent for a long time is speaking again. Chapter 36. Is this how you welcome me? Zifa smiled and forced himself to stand up. You are quite strong. I didn't even force you to use your full strength. Shen Yuan smiled bitterly. Gee! Can't you see that I'm not motivated yet? Full strength? Even the domineering attitude was not used. Despite this, Shen Yuan still smiled and nodded. Following such a powerful person, I'm sure you will achieve great things in the future. Having said this, Zephyr called Smoker and Tina over. These are the two disciples I think highly of. I would like to ask you to teach them for a while. How do you think? Shen Yuan closed his eyes and thought. I'm already very tired, and you still want me to carry a burden with me? In the end, he shook his head and refused. I'm going to take my own actions from now on. I won't have time to take care of them if you force them. Zifa was stunned. What are you going to do? Let's keep this secret for now. General Zifa will know about it later. Seeing that Shen Yuan was unwilling to say, Zifa stopped asking. Smoker, this is your master. It's up to you to decide whether to go or stay. I will explain to the Navy headquarters for you. Looking at Shen Yuan's stern gaze, Smoker couldn't help but shudder all over. He finally shook his head. I'm a Marine. Zifa nodded and moved his gaze to Tina. Tina also pondered for a moment and made the same decision as Smoker. Let me ask you, who would be willing to become Shen Yuan's apprentice after hearing what he said? Tina wants to ask, how old are you this year? At this time, Shen Yuan had been baptized by war after war and had experienced many hardships. He did not look like he was 14 years old at all. 14. Tina was stunned and didn't say anything. Zifa was also shocked and unwilling to accept this fact. That's it. If someone comes later, just tell them to practice well, I have something important to do. Smoker nodded and agreed happily. Tom, build the ship properly instead of giving me a shoddy job. Tom was eating the popcorn he had managed to snatch. Hearing this, he choked and started coughing violently. Then Shen Yuan's voice gradually faded away, and he disappeared with his moon steps. Zifa took a look at the devastated battlefield and sighed helplessly. Such a terrifying fighting force was not added to the Navy. If so, he will definitely be a general, no, a marshal. Zifa continued to direct everyone to clean up the battlefield, gazing into the distance with deep eyes. When Dashiki and his group arrived at the port of Seven Water City, they found that Shen Yuan had already left. Where is the master? Dashiki asked. When Smoker saw that the person coming was Tashiji, he was overjoyed. Tashiji! Are you doing well? I'm doing fine. May I ask where is our captain? Smoker's face fell and he stretched out his arm and pointed toward the horizon. The master left a long time ago. How did he leave? Dashiki still looked curious. flew away. As soon as this word comes out, the whole place fell into deathly silence. Smoker spoke again, Master told me to tell you before he left, to continue your training in the Seven Waters City, and not to be lazy. Everyone nodded. Zifa's mind became active. How do you usually train? As soon as these words were spoken, everyone looked at Zifa. I tell you, like this, like this, like this, like this, like this. Kyung said gloomily, and her expression seemed to show that she was very averse to this kind of training method. Zifa suddenly realized. Isn't this Garp's training method? But there are some differences. The second half of the Great Route. This is the new world, the paradise of pirates. Moby Dick. Okay, got it. Marco hung up the phone, his expression showing uncontrollable excitement. Marco, what are you so happy about? The man with charcoal skin and wearing heavy armor was Jaws, who asked. Shen Yuan called me just now and said he would come to visit me today. Vista also came up with a curious look on his face. I heard he's a master swordsman. Can you let him fight me? Xiao Zai also agreed, I heard that his physical skills are also very strong. Would you like to compete with me? Marco looked strange. He had never even beaten Shen Yuan. Are you two just looking for a beating? Okay, wait until he comes over and talk to him yourself. Say it. Marco flew high into the sky, searching the sea. At this time Whitebeard also walked out of the captain's room, holding a Kusukimai key sword in his hand. Everyone was very confused and looked at their father walking out of the cabin with a strange expression on his face. Gulala! Are you here? Whitebeard took an attacking stance, and the blade of the Kusukimkiri blade was instantly covered with the force of shock, and he swung it towards the sky. Whoosh! An unstoppable slash was swung out with a shocking force. Is this how you welcome me, old man? Shen Yuan pulled out Tian Tun to resist the collision. Boom! The shock force made Shen Yuan's wrist numb, but the attack was still broken by his sword. Whizzing! The slash was split in two and flew to the side. Tunshin attacked Whitebeard directly. Gulala! Whitebeard raised the Kusunakiri in his hand and tested his strength with Shen Yuan. The burst of air waves spread out in circles like ripples. The sky above his head was torn open with a big hole by the power of the two. Kid, are you ready? Of course, old man, you are worthy of being the strongest man in the world. Whitebeard laughed heartily, and the power of the shock force in his body continued to increase, slowly increasing his strength. Shen Yuan also smiled, and Tunshin quietly spread its ghost energy. The black mist slowly climbed up the blade and collided with the shock force. Oh! A bang! The sky closed and the wonders of heaven and earth were restored. Whitebeard placed Kusunakiri on the deck and looked at Shen Yuan with a smile. Gulala! Gulala! What a nice little devil! Everyone was dumbfounded. Especially Baista. Even 10 of you would have difficulty taking on this kind of attack, right? Shen Yuan landed steadily on the deck. He put Tunshin back into the scabbard and looked at the crew members around him. Arrived at the Moby Dick. Obtain skill points 5. Old man, I'm here today to talk to you about cooperation. After saying this, Whitebeard laughed heartily again, turned around and went into the captain's room. Come in and talk. Shen Yuan didn't act pretentiously and followed Whitebeard into the captain's room. A group of people outside looked dazed. What's the situation? What a dangerous little devil! Whitebeard raised his glass, laughed and took a sip of wine. Then he slowly said, which island do you want to attack? Shen Yuan took the wine glass handed over by Whitebeard. However, this wine glass is like a bathtub, and it is probably big enough for himself, Tashiji, and Caliphate to take a bath. I want to start a war. Shen Yuan spoke calmly. Whitebeard was stunned and looked over with a puzzled look. Occupy Kaido's territory and search for the devil fruit I want. It would be best if we could get a few contemporary swords. This is not war, this is invasion. It's invasion. Having said that, Whitebeard's mind also became active. The big family he had always wanted to build was now complete, and he was also in his twilight years. Whitebeard is known as the strongest man in the world. At this moment, a different emotion arose in my heart. Boy, what are you going to do? I plan to select people from your group and train them, then attack the surrounding Kaido territories to seize treasures. Whitebeard agreed without hesitation. Don't worry about your choice. I will definitely support you. However, my sons attach great importance to strength. Don't worry about that, but before that, I have something else to do. Whitebeard was stunned for a moment, then slowly asked, what do you want to do? Destroy Judicial Island. Chapter 37. Planning. Shen Yuan negotiated with Whitebeard for a while. Finally, with the help of Marco, Jaws, and Izzo's troops, the matter was settled. Hello? Crocodile. A lazy voice came from the other end of the phone. Hello? What instructions? Crocodile was holding a cup of black tea at the moment. In front of him was a man who was tied up and his face could not be seen clearly. Tomorrow I will attack Judicial Island. Do you have the guts? Crocodile spat out a mouthful of black tea, his face showing shock. Is this something that must be done? Blowing up Judicial Island is a provocation to the authority of the world government. Majesty? Where is the majesty of the world government? It's like a fucking shoe insole. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and silence was the bridge of Judicial Island. How do you want to do it? Choose the strongest people you think to help me clean up the miscellaneous soldiers. Don't worry about the rest, I'll handle it myself. When this is done, I will give you a small reward. Award. Crocodile took a deep breath. How many years have I not heard this word? Okay, what time tomorrow? About 3/4 afternoon. Crocodile, what time is it 3/4 afternoon? About 11:30. Crocodile nodded and hung up the phone. He glanced at the intelligence member kneeling in front of him and couldn't help but frown. You house dogs are not done yet, are you? You have come to my place more than 10 times in the past 3 days. Do you think this is your backyard? The intelligence members were stunned when they heard this. What back garden? What? Crocodile suddenly jumped up and locked his neck tightly. The fruit's ability is activated instantly, draining all the water from its body. Throwing the corpse aside, Crocodile picked up the Den Mushi. Tell Mr. 1, Mr. 2, Mr. 3 and Mr. 5 to bring their partners over. I have something to say to them. Crocodile hung up the phone and rubbed his hands, looking excited. Attacking Judicial Island, I don't even dare to think about it. What a crazy move. In a moment, all the members summoned by him stood in front of Lao Shao, waiting for his orders. Bonus, let me ask you, if you were given a chance to challenge the world government, would you do it? After hearing this, Dawes Bonus shuddered all over and his expression became slightly surprised. It is true that they are a criminal group, but no one else can do this. Mr. President, if it is possible, I would certainly be happy to do such crazy things. Crocodile smiled, stretched out his hand and showed his hook, pointing it at everyone. What about you? The others looked at each other, but nodded dumbly. Tomorrow we will follow Shen Yuan to attack the Judicial Island. Your mission is to clean up the trash. Do you understand? Tomorrow? Got it. Everyone understood now. It turns out that the crazy attack on Judicial Island was actually carried out by that devilish organization? I didn't expect that the first major action would be the attack on the Judicial Island. How cruel. They all felt lucky to have survived the hands of the Plague God. We will set out tomorrow and meet up with Shen Yuan at the Seven Waters City. After the battle begins, you are no longer members of the Baroque Studio, you are the crew of Shen Yuan's ship, do you understand? Everyone agreed, their faces turning red. Bonus closed his eyes and began to think about tomorrow's course of action. Mr. 5, your ability is explosion, right? Tomorrow the mission of blowing up the gate of Judicial Island will be given to you. Mr. 5 nodded, very nervous. He got this explosive fruit by chance, and he had just eaten it a few days ago. Didn't expect this to come in handy? Everyone disperse, and don't be late tomorrow. Say it. Crocodile turned into yellow sand and flew out of the conference room. Right now. Shen Yuan was fiddling with his system. I haven't checked for a long time. What is my strength like? I glanced at my skill point balance and saw that there were only 9 points left, so I breathed a sigh of relief. Fill it up, that's arrogant. All the skill points were allocated, the strength enhancement was maxed out, and the strength attribute bar changed. Name, Shen Yuan. Age, 14 years old. Identity, Adventurer. Skills, Navy 6 Styles, LV1. Sword Mastery, Max Level, 3 Color Domineering, Max Level. Physical Enhancement, Full Level, Agility Enhancement, LV1 5, Strength Enhancement, Full Level, Speed Enhancement, LV12. Immortal King Kong, 100/100. Battle Hardened Body, 100/100. Godlike Body, 100/100. Giant God Power, 100/100. On the original basis, you can use the power of the God of Death to assist in the battle, the duration depends on the actual situation. Level, 82, randomly get a phased reward at level 100. Shen Yuan was happy. An attack method that can harm the soul? Even if Tiga comes today, he has to leave the tights behind. Return to the Seven Waters City. Shen Yuan looked over. A group of people had been waiting on the coast. Captain, what have you been doing? Khalifa and Tashiji came forward and held Shen Yuan's arms, just like two young wives. I went to visit the old man with white beard. After saying this, Shen Yuan said seriously. Everyone stand still. As soon as these words came out, everyone tensed up. Captain, is something big going to happen? I'll take a step forward as I read. Yes. A loud shout was heard, startling the boatmen working behind. What are they doing? Military training? Are pirates so formal nowadays? Another boatman shook his head. What nonsense! How much can you learn from military training? Boatman. Dasi Chi. 2. Tomorrow we will all attack Judicial Island. I order you to be the commander-in-chief of the operation and keep an eye on the battlefield. Yes. Dashiki's hands were shaking with excitement, this was her first big battle after joining Shen Yuan's army. Joan. 2. I order you to be deputy captain of the war medical unit. Someone will report to you tomorrow. Yes. Kyan's eyes sparkled slightly, and there was a gleam in her eyes. But... Vice Captain? Who is the captain? Anilu. 2. You are the general of the left wing of the battle. Clear out the enemy troops on the left side. Yes. Anilu clenched the golden halberd in his hand. This is a weapon that Shen Yuan made for him using forging techniques, and it is a weapon he likes very much. Khalifa is a right-wing general. That's it, everyone get ready and gather here tomorrow. All members disbanded. Everyone began to make preparations for war. Shen Yuan looked up at the sky and saw a figure slowly falling down. It was Rayleigh. Boy, why don't you come to me when you have something big to do? Lei Li smiled, and his naive smile instantly made Shen Yuan feel a chill. How did you become so disgusting, old man? Rayleigh took out the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia from his arms and handed it to Shen Yuan. I took the illustrated guide earlier to identify my own inventory. Sorry. It's okay as long as you die. Rayleigh didn't say anything, and after a moment Shen Yuan broke the silence. You don't have to take part in this battle. Rayleigh nodded and agreed readily. Chapter 38. The dispute begins. This is the first half of the Great Route. It is the only way to enter the New World. And this is the Judicial Island located in the first half of the Grand Line. There is a court directly under the world government on the island. Although it is a court, it actually acts solely on the will of the world government. Anyone who is taken to the Judicial Island has been identified as a criminal and will surely be put to death. The surrounding seas were slightly restless, as if a prey had been discovered by a wild beast. The Navy and world government officials guarding the Judicial Island looked around, their brows twitching. Hey, why does my right eye keep twitching? The same is true for world government officials. Me too, I feel like today is going to be a waste. While the two were talking, a naval colonel stared at the sea with a suspicious look on his face. He was seen frowning and looking at the sea in the distance, not daring to relax at all. Keep your eyes on that sea area, the waves there are not right. The Marines responded one after another and dispatched several patrol teams to intensify monitoring. Should we report this to the Navy headquarters? The Navy captain hesitated. We are still not sure now. I don't think it's right for us to act arbitrarily based on our feelings. However, at this moment... Oh! A loud explosion was heard. The Judicial Island was bombarded? Do you want to report now? The colonel looked excited, even a little secretly happy. You're a fool. Someone is attacking you, why don't you defend yourself? The intelligence officer's face turned black. Are all naval captains like this? The entire Judicial Island immediately entered combat mode. The battlefield was covered with debris and explosions continued one after another. Boom! 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 Marco, wrapped in blue flames, kicked the main gate to pieces. Hey guys, charge for me! The pirates are in high spirits and their fighting spirit is very high. Charge! Charge into Judicial Island! Kill him without a single piece of armor left! A large number of pirates arrived on the island, like jackals coming ashore, biting anyone they saw. In an instant, blood and flesh flew all over the battlefield. The sounds of muffled groans and screams continued to be heard. Seeing this scene, the defenders began to fight back. They picked up their guns and fought with the Whitebeard pirates. Now, the colonel stood on the watchtower. When I saw this scene, my face turned pale. Report. The east gate of Judicial Island has been breached, and the leader is suspected to be former CP9 member Khalifa. Khalifa? Yes, Colonel, and there is a little kid holding a halberd next to him. Child. The colonel looked panicked. By now, we can only organize people to ask for help from the Navy headquarters. Hello? Navy headquarters? Judicial. I haven't finished speaking yet. There was a loud bang and the colonel was shot in the abdomen. Vomit. He vomited a mouthful of blood and fell directly to the ground. Hello? Hello? The Den Mushi didn't hang up and the operator on the other end looked confused. Are you sick? If you harass me again, I'll send you to the Navy court. Beep, beep, beep. Humph, don't even think about asking for help. Izzo, holding two guns, organized the people in an orderly manner and rushed towards the second gate of Judicial Island. Boom. Oh. Kill. Kill. The sounds of cursing and killing spread everywhere. At this moment, above the western sea, Crocodile stood at the bow of the ship with an evil smile on his lips. Young men, charge through the west gate. MR5 took the lead. I just saw him picking out the booger from his nostrils and flicking it away. Booger bomb. A tiny booger. The west gate of the Judicial Island was so excited that it suddenly exploded. At this moment, all Baroque members rushed into the Judicial Island. All the Marines were stunned. Report. Report, the west gate has been lost, a large number of pirates have poured into the Judicial Island, and now the Judicial Island is surrounded on three sides and is in danger. The colonel lying on the ground seemed petrified. What the hell? Again. The colonel closed his eyes and just lay on the ground. I don't care, do whatever you want. There was a moment when he really wanted to die. At this time, the vice-admirals patrolling from a distance also discovered the abnormality on Judicial Island. Enemy attack, enemy attack. Go and provide support. Many warships then turned their heads, but a cold voice came from a distance. Give me some face and stay here quietly. All the lieutenant generals were stunned and looked towards the source of the sound. Oh! A figure flashed in front of the vice-admiral. In response, he was knocked back more than 10 meters and fell headfirst into the sea. There is no drag. Shen Yuan punches one by one. These lieutenant generals fell into the sea like dumplings. It's Shen Yuan. It's the god of death Shen Yuan. Requesting support from headquarters. When Vice Admiral Flying Squirrel saw this scene, his face turned green. Nothing good happened the last time I met him. I was criticized by that old guy Zhang Guo, and now it's you again. Before the Flying Squirrel could react, a fist covered with armed color domineering is approaching. Nima. I haven't even started yet. Oh. The Flying Squirrel flew out backwards. Just like a rocket that has been ignited, it turns into a meteor and flies high into the sky. Hajime. All the lieutenant generals were knocked unconscious. The Marines were all stunned by his domineering look. Shen Yuan rubbed his hands excitedly, looking relieved. I can rest assured now. But after defeating so many people, why doesn't the system take any action? He thought about it carefully and realized that it was true. You're already level 80, and it's obviously not realistic to kill minions to level up. After solving the external hidden dangers, Shen Yuan leaped into the air and headed straight for the main island of Judicial Island. Whoosh! Shen Yuan's figure formed an arc and slowly disappeared above the sea. The marine just watched as a figure flew over his head with a look of astonishment on his face. Report, Judicial Island has been lost from above. The colonel's face turned black. Nima. I was pretending to be dead and you still report to me? But what does it mean to lose control of the high altitude? I couldn't help but open my eyes in confusion and look into the distance. I wipe. This time, the colonel almost couldn't breathe and vomited blood again on the spot. At this time, Shen Yuan was hanging high in the air with his feet on the moon step, overlooking the people below him. The fighting continues and both sides are still fighting fiercely. He nodded, seeming very satisfied. He raised his head slightly, accelerated suddenly, and flew towards the judicial tower on Judicial Island. There. But there are good babies. Enlil here is really showing his might. A group of intelligence agents dressed in black, holding weapons, faced Enlil. But their foreheads were covered with cold sweat. Yehahaha! Yehahaha! Let me test your strength. Enlil wields the Fang Tian Huaji. The golden Fang Tian Huaji was swung by him with great force. With a swing of the halberd, he cut a horrifying wound directly into the opponent's chest. Yehahaha! All of you go to hell! The Fang Tian Huaji was suddenly covered with the armed color domineering aura, revealing a murderous spirit. Chiang! A flying streak of iron clashed with the Fang Tian Huaji, causing a sound of metal clashing. Enlil raised his eyebrows and became interested. Finally, someone has come who I can move around with properly. Lanjiao! Without further ado, another slash burst out. Enlil dodged the attack by moving sideways. The Fang Tian Huaji in his hand was swung out violently. Call! A gust of powerful wind blew away the intelligence chief on the opposite side and made him stagger. He quickly adjusted his body shape. He tore off the black cloak, revealing a black suit. He tugged at his tie and was about to speak. Oh! Marco came out of nowhere and kicked him away. The commander was kicked away, the east gate was lost, and victory was officially declared. Don't bother interrupting other people's fights. Marco smiled awkwardly and left towards the east gate in embarrassment. Enlil was extremely angry. Holding his breath, he rushed directly into the inner door. At this moment in the judicial tower, Spondam stood in the room at the top of the tower, staring at the disputed judicial island for a long time. Report to the commander, the main gate has been breached. Concentrate all forces at the Justice Tower and prepare for a desperate fight. Saying so. But Spondam's mind had already become active. Just quietly retreat to the bottom of the Tower of Justice, where there is a small boat that has been prepared. Then, can't I just run away? Can we still put the blame on the Navy? This is killing two birds with one stone. Thinking of this, Spondam gave a wicked smile. You guys fight first, I'll leave first as a sign of respect. After much trouble, Spondam finally reached the bottom of the Tower of Justice. Just as he was about to get on the boat, a cold voice came from a distance. You can't leave. Spondam's body stiffened. Even the long sword in his hand that had eaten the elephant fruit was covered in cold sweat. I repeat, you are already dead. Do you want to die by yourself or do you want me to help you die? The cold sweat on Spondam's forehead fell to the ground with a pat sound. Extremely nervous. Likewise, the long sword also tensed its body, ready to cooperate with its master in launching a fatal attack. Just then, Spondam moved. A gorgeous turn and jump high. The long sword was held in his hand. Heading straight for Shen Yuan. Chapter 39. Asking for help. Sir, please spare me. Spondam fell to his knees with a thump. Mangda offered his sword to Shen Yuan as if he were presenting a treasure. Shen Yuan took the sword with a smile and began to look it over. Did I let you go? Spondam, who was about to flee, paused. This moment seems to be reenacted. He stood there in a daze, too frightened to move by the threat. Shen Yuan threw down his sword. Bend your knees slightly, and then compress your strength to the extreme. Then his figure instantly leaped into the sky. Flip over and strike a boxing stance. This punch was accompanied by a strong wind and fell down with unparalleled force. There were bursts of sonic booms. Spondam couldn't help but look up. When I saw it, I was shocked. My legs are shaking and I can't move. What kind of attack is this? This is the last question in Spondam's mind. Without waiting for his reaction, a blow with devastating force suddenly arrived. Justice! The iron fist landed heavily on Spondam's head like a rapidly falling missile. Boom! Its head was instantly flattened by Shen Yuan, and even its entire body was compressed into a two-dimensional creature. When Shen Yuan stood up again, Spondam had been smashed into a portrait. Shen Yuan clenched his fist and said casually, well, the force is a little weak, but it is enough. Picking up the sword on the ground, he slowly walked into the Tower of Justice and began to search for treasures in this tower. Besides, the door to the Judicial Island has been opened by many pirates. Everyone rush to Judicial Island and grab it for me. Marco shouted, and behind him, Izzo and Jaws also entered the inner door and began to search for treasure. Naval Headquarters. Malinvondo. Bulu, Bulletin, 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 Bulletin. The Den Mushi on Sengoku's desk rang out, and his brows furrowed slightly. Hey! No, 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 oh no, Marshal Sengoku, Before he could finish his words, the Den Mushi was hung up. Two blue veins bulged on Zhangguo's forehead, and he felt confused inside. Bulu, Bulletin, 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 Bulletin. Another phone call. Hey! The Warring States period started again. This time there was a lot of noise coming from the other side, as well as the shouting of people from both sides fighting. Hey! Zhangguo asked tentatively. No, no. Before the man could finish speaking, the Den Mushi was hung up again. Zhangguo frowned. Sima? Judicial? Something happened on Judicial Island? Judicial Island is a symbol of the authority of the world government. If something goes wrong, he, as the marshal, has an unshirkable responsibility. Thinking of this, he hurriedly called the lieutenant generals stationed on the Judicial Island. Brr, boo, 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 boo. The ringing of Den Mushi from several warships formed a symphony. But at this time there was no one on the warship, and everyone had gone into the sea. Seeing this scene, Garp, who was sitting next to Sengoku, couldn't help but wonder, what's going on? Someone just reported from the Judicial Island, but hung up before finishing the sentence. Garp was stunned, his brows furrowed. Let me go. Cap stood up. The white naval uniform shrinks dramatically, demonstrating the strength of this naval hero at all times. Then go and take a look. You don't have to come back. I'll give you a holiday. Cap was delighted. He rushed out of the office and started organizing people to set off. Zhangguo had a gloomy face. The two sentences just now kept appearing in my mind, and I fell into deep thought. Bulu, Bulletin, 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 Bulletin. The telephone rang again, and Zhangguo answered the phone with a gloomy face. There was an urgent voice on the other end of the phone. Marshal Sengoku, I'm Flying Squirrel. Judicial Island is under attack by Shen Yuan, and there are suspected to be other pirate groups as accomplices. It seemed as if there were two more wrinkles on Zhangguo's face, and he looked shocked. It turned out to be Shen Yuan who attacked the Judicial Island. Did that little devil finally attack the navy? Even though he was thinking this, he still said in a deep voice, Garp has passed, don't worry. After saying that, Zhangguo hung up the phone. The flying squirrel stood there in a daze, listening to the dead tone on the other end of the phone. The Judicial Island is almost gone, and there's no need to worry. But after all, Vice Admiral Garp is on his way, so I just need to delay a little longer. No, something's wrong. The more Zhangguo thought about it, the more he felt something was wrong. Attacking the Judicial Island is a provocation, a naked provocation. Provoking the world government? Zhangguo took out Shen Yuan's information again. There was only information printed with Shen Yuan's profile, with a red circle highlighted in the relatives column. Garp, and this mère, are both Marines. Whether going out to sea or attacking Judicial Island, it cannot change the fact that Shen Yuan has a navy grandfather. Zhangguo took a deep breath. He silently put the information back into the drawer, clasped his hands together, and began to ponder the hidden meaning of Shen Yuan's actions. Attack Judicial Island and declare war on the world government. Zhangguo burst into laughter. This crazy idea is like Pandora's box, once opened, it cannot be taken back. Just thinking about this, Zhangguo had already made a judgment in his heart. In the end, he shook his head, stopped dwelling on the matter, picked up the Den Mushi and called Garp. Hello? What's wrong? Garp, it was Shen Yuan who invaded Judicial Island. Shen Yuan. Garp was stunned, but then he smiled with relief. Okay, I know. After hanging up the phone, Garp ordered the ship to slow down and it slowly sailed towards the Judicial Island. Vice Admiral Garp, didn't they say that there was an emergency on Judicial Island? Bogart asked puzzledly. It's okay, don't worry. Bogart seemed to have paused, standing there for a long time without saying a word. The intruder is Shen Yuan. Cap added slowly, eating the donut in his hand. Bogart reacted only after the start button was pressed again. Shen Yuan attacked Judicial Island? What does this mean? Cap ate the donut slowly and began to reminisce. He told me his dream before he went to sea. He wanted to travel around the world. What do you mean? Bogart still didn't understand. I mean, his ambitions will never be buried in this small sea. What do you mean by this? Bogart still was puzzled. That's my grandson, you know it. Cap's face darkened and he turned away and stopped looking at Bogart. The ship sails slowly on the sea, and gusts of sea breeze blow on your face. Lieutenant General Garp, your call. Cap's eyes lit up. Bogart reached out and pulled out a den mushi and handed it to Garp. He reached out to take the den mushi, but the voice on the other end of the line was very different from what he expected. Vice Admiral Garp, I'm Flying Squirrel. How long will it take you to reach Judicial Island? Right now, Judicial Island. Right away, right away. Garp hung up the phone impatiently. Do-do-do. The Flying Squirrel listened to the blind tone in the den mushi and fell into silence. Silence is the Judicial Island tonight. Suddenly, a figure carrying a large bag suddenly appeared and disappeared from the Flying Squirrel's sight. He waved his sleeves and took away most of the treasure. The Flying Squirrel saw this scene. I was stunned at that time. The long sword in his hand fell to the ground with a clang. Is this Kaido Kid? Chapter 40. Calm down. The battle is over. It ended with the destruction of Judicial Island. Most of the troops here were wiped out by Shen Yuan and his group, and the battlefield was littered with corpses. Most of the buildings here have been destroyed, and even the Gate of Justice in the back was smashed to pieces by Shen Yuan. The face of the world government was completely destroyed after the Judicial Island was bombed to the ground. There are no longer a large number of garrisons here, and the strict security of the past is no longer there. At this time, the culprit had already escaped on a small boat. It's an animal-type devil fruit, probably a giraffe form. Shen Yuan was playing with a devil fruit while flipping through the devil fruit illustration in his hand. This might be the animal type, turtle fruit. Shen Yuan's face turned black and he threw it to the ground. It's the last one, can you give me a good one? When he opened the page that recorded all the characteristics of this devil fruit, his eyes lit up. Animal type cat fruit, lion form. Shen Yuan was ecstatic. A lion, that is a lion. Shen Yuan is happy. But our Lieutenant General Flying Squirrel's face has turned blue. Bulletin, 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 bulletin. When the telephone bug rang, the Flying Squirrel trembled. He is now a little afraid of things like telephones. Hello? Vice Admiral Garp. The Flying Squirrel took a deep breath and heard the voice of Vice Admiral Garp, and couldn't help but breathe a sigh of relief. I'm here, where is the intruder? The invaders are heading towards the New World. All the property on Judicial Island has been stolen. The Flying Squirrel became more and more excited as he spoke, as if his wife had been stolen. I see. Do-do-do. The phone was hung up again. Flying Squirrel. Silence again. Shen Yuan and his group were on a small boat, and everyone was sitting in front of a pile of glittering golden treasures. Here are 3 devil fruits that are of no use to me. Shen Yuan glanced at Crocodile, then at Marco, and continued. All 3 are animal-type devil fruits. The ability of the male form is the strongest among them. Of course, it still depends on the development level of the user. Marco's eyes lit up. The animal-type devil fruit is, after all, the devil fruit hidden on Judicial Island. However the distribution is done is up to Brother Shen. Marco smiled awkwardly and rubbed his hands excitedly. Great! It's rare for a pirate group to be so open. As he spoke, Shen Yuan threw all 3 devil fruits to Marco. I'll give it all to you. This sword with the elephant fruit will be mine, and we'll split the rest of the treasure 50-50. There was a golden light in Marco's eyes, and he nodded frantically like a chicken pecking at rice. He carefully placed the 3 devil fruits in a treasure chest. Brother Shen, are you attacking Judicial Island just to steal the treasure? Yes, and no. This is a declaration of war. After saying this, Shen Yuan stopped talking to Marco who was standing there in a daze, and turned to look at Crocodile. Do you want to become stronger? As soon as these words came out, Lao Sha's eyes burst into unprecedented greed. I see that you have a fine bone structure and your forehead is white. This captain will give you a training method as a gift. As he spoke, Shen Yuan took out a tattered booklet from his arms, and an ancient and elegant atmosphere filled the air. This skill cannot be passed on to outsiders. This is the result of my life's, experience. Shen Yuan threw the booklet into Lao Sha's hands and turned away without looking at him. Lao Sha has a lot of question marks in his head. What old man? What kind of forehead bone is this? But when he opened the first page of the booklet, Lao Sha's eyes lit up. It records the detailed method of guiding the domineering spirit, and also has considerate annotations. There is also a way to guide the conqueror's haki. Page 1 of the booklet. The domineering aura of the king is possessed by only a few people in this sea, but there are traces of it. Lao Sha read and thought, then turned to the next page. Page 2 of the booklet. The possessor of conqueror's haki must have lofty ambitions and be the overlord of this ocean. How to guide the domineering color. When the facilitator encounters emotional fluctuations and his emotions are out of control, he may explode instantly. After multiple outbursts, you may be able to use conqueror's haki skillfully and freely. Emotional fluctuations. There are many kinds of emotional fluctuations, such as sadness, excitement, anger, elation, and so on, which can stimulate one's potential. After viewing, Lao Sha closed the booklet and silently thought about the cultivation method in the booklet. At this moment, the brothers in charge of investigation were instantly panicked. Boss! Boss, it seems like there are Marines chasing us. Does the Navy dare to catch up? Marco instantly generated blue flames, flew high into the sky, and looked into the distance. I watched it for more than 10 seconds. Marco's face became paler and paler. Brother Shen, we might be in trouble. The opponent seems to be the Navy hero Garp. Marco had a face. But afterwards he looked determined. Brother Shen, you guys go first. I'll cover you. I won't die. Shen Yuan smiled, patted Marco's shoulder heavily, and nodded affirmatively. Fuck? Aren't you going to be polite? I believe you can. Marco looked at Shen Yuan with a determined face, and felt a sudden panic in his heart for no reason. Will you die? Will you die? Thinking of this, Marco shook his head, turned around righteously, and said to his brothers. After I die, I will tell my dad that I died to protect everyone and I am glorious. After saying this, the whole bird dived rapidly towards the warship. Shen Yuan folded his arms and watched the scene with a smile. 1 minute later. Old Ma, old Ma. Marco looked peaceful and seemed to be walking very steadily. Boss. Boss. Why are you so miserable? There is a 60 or 70-year-old father at home waiting for you to support him. Waves of crying echoed through the clouds, and 2 blue veins suddenly appeared on Marco's originally peaceful forehead. I'm not dead yet. Everyone wiped away their tears and was lamenting the recovery of what they had lost. A loud shout came from a distance. Haha! You little brat, I'm going to beat you to death right now. Garp quickly attacked Shen Yuan with a punch. Boom! Shen Yuan also threw a punch, colliding with Garp's fist. The two collided with each other, and every move was used as if looking in a mirror. As expected of you, you are my grandson. You have truly inherited my legacy. The power increased, the iron fist was suddenly covered with black armament color, and an unparalleled aura exploded. Boom! Another bang! The domineering aura of the two colliding with each other created circles of thunder, and the wild power instantly vented and spread out, instantly knocking out the minions around them. Clap! 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 One by one, the minions fell to the ground and lost consciousness. It seems that your strength has improved a lot, little boy. I am so happy, so happy. As he spoke, Garp retracted his strength, and Shen Yuan did the same. Garp's big hand fell heavily on his shoulder. Old man, how have you been lately? Garp's face turned red, and he said angrily, why didn't you listen to me, little brat, and insisted on becoming an adventurer? Now you are in trouble. Having said that, Garp was still very surprised at Shen Yuan's changes. He had thick black hair and his features formed a resolute face. He was wearing a black swordsman's robe and had a black long sword hanging from his waist. At this moment, he was standing in front of Garp with his arms folded. It seems to overlap with the appearance of Garp when he was young. Garp looked at Shen Yuan and was dazed for a moment. You really have inherited my legacy. Cap nodded, looking very excited. I hope you can defeat your opponent just like I defeated Roger. Say it. Garp no longer paid attention to everyone on the boat. He turned his back to everyone and slowly left. If you encounter any trouble, feel free to come to me. Chapter 41. The Second Shen Yuan Meeting. Holy Place. Marie Joya. The 5 elders sat upright, with intelligence delivered by several intelligence members in front of them. The old man in black had a gloomy face as he flipped through the information in front of him. What do you think of this incident? The old man in white took a deep breath and fell into deep thought. There was silence in the room. After a moment, it was the first to break the silence. The Admiral of the Navy also has an unshirkable role in this matter. The old man in black realized, you mean to put all the blame on Zhang Guo? The old man in white nodded, his face extremely gloomy. The old man in white is Zambaran v Nasujiro Sei, the god of finance among the 5 elder stars. Nasujiro Sei continued, this matter must be handled perfectly, otherwise the world government will lose all its face. The old man in black said calmly, how do you think this matter should be handled? The old man in black is Jagalusha Satan, the god of scientific defense among the 5 elder stars. Nasujiro Sei, who was dressed in a white robe, continued in a low voice, push the blame to Sengoku and send the Admiral of the Navy to destroy Shen Yuan. Satan Saint agreed and said, then notify Zhang Guo immediately and send General Akainu to destroy Shen Yuan. At this time, the old man in red, who had been silent all the time, spoke. He was wearing a dark red suit, had blonde hair and a beard, and a scar on his chest, and looked quite elegant. I think this matter needs to be discussed with the Navy before implementation. Doing so would undermine human rights. The old man in red is named Shepherd 10 Peter Saint, the god of agriculture among the 5 elder stars. Peter Saint continued, besides, what Shen Yuan did undoubtedly challenged the authority of the world government, but don't forget it. Say it. Peter Saint took a sip of the tea in front of him and continued. Shen Yuan is the grandson of the Navy hero Garp, and he is also related to the revolutionary Long. The encirclement and suppression of Shen Yuan will involve a lot of things. After these words were spoken, the 5 old men fell silent. Without him. What Peter Saint said was all true, but the bombing of the judicial island cannot be let go. Satan Sheng said gloomily, but Shen Yuan blew up the judicial island. Just for this incident, Shen Yuan has been sentenced to death. Peter Saint did not say anything. He just sat quietly on the sofa, looking at the other 4 old men with interest. Let's do it. Contact Sengoku to send General Akainu to encircle and suppress Shen Yuan. The meeting is adjourned. Nasujiro Sei suddenly stood up and walked out of the meeting room in a breath. The second meeting against Shen Yuan ended with the opinion to eliminate Shen Yuan. Naval Headquarters. Malinvondo. At this time, Zhang Guo was answering a call from the 5 elders, and his expression became increasingly gloomy. Zhang Guo, immediately issue an order to encircle and suppress Shen Yuan. Send Admiral Akainu from the Navy Headquarters to encircle and suppress Shen Yuan. Remember, make this a bigger deal. Let all those stinking rats in the sewers see it. Zhang Guo did not speak and continued to listen to the other party. You are guilty of this action. Zhang Guo's face turned black. How many people did your world government send to guard the judicial island? Is it 100? Do you know how many of our vice admirals have been screwed in the sea? Do you know how difficult it is for me to be caught in the middle? Okay, Saint Wao Churi, I will take care of this matter right away, but it will take a few days. Akainu just went out on a mission and hasn't returned yet. There was silence on the other end of the phone, and neither side continued to speak. After a while, Saint Voculi continued, well, let's not drag this matter out for too long. After saying that, the phone was hung up and Zhang Guo breathed a sigh of relief. What a troublesome little devil. After saying that, Zhang Guo looked up at the ceiling and couldn't help muttering to himself. Kapu, your good grandson has done something great. Sengoku fell into deep thought. The Den Mushi to contact Akainu was just there, but he didn't dial it. Let's talk about Shen Yuan at this time. Already safely back on the Moby Dick. Looking at the mountains of gold, silver, and treasures in front of him, his little face turned red with excitement. What a fat sheep! Shen Yuan stretched out his hand and began to pick and choose from a pile of gold, without any regard for the feelings of the captains around him. I say, little brat. After doing this, aren't you afraid that the higher-ups will send someone to kill you? Shen Yuan snorted coldly, not caring at all. It doesn't matter. Joke. Now, even if there are 3 great future generations, I am confident that I can destroy one of them and make him escape. Thinking of this, Shen Yuan took out a key made of gold from a pile of treasures. This key seems unusual. All the captains came forward to take a look, but none of them knew what it was. You don't know what this is? Marco shook his head and lowered his head in silence. Gulala. Keep this key, little one. It may be useful in the future. Whitebeard laughed heartily and raised his head to take another sip of wine. At this time, a dark-skinned man stepped forward. A suit of black and red armor wrapped around his huge muscles shows his explosive power all the time. Shen Yuan, can you fight with me? Shen Yuan tilted his head to look. I saw Xiao Ziyai standing in front of him, with his arms folded across his chest, his eyes fixed on Shen Yuan. Okay. Shen Yuan stood up and continued, I'll give you 3 moves. After 3 moves, I won't care about your life or death. Xiao Zi's originally dark face turned as black as a coal ball after hearing what Shen Yuan said. Don't be too arrogant. Whitebeard also showed interest. When he tested Shen Yuan's strength before, he could clearly feel that Shen Yuan's strength was far from as simple as he saw. I will be the referee of this duel, Zhou's a kid, don't cry when you die. Whitebeard said in a deep voice. God Jaws took a deep breath and suppressed the urge to complain. A shining diamond armor instantly emerged from his entire body, wrapping himself, and his eyes were fierce and determined. Dad, don't worry. Whitebeard nodded. Start. As soon as these words came out, Xiao Ziyai rushed away instantly. Boom. A loud crash was heard from the Moby Dick, scaring away the birds. The attack is over. Xiao Ziyai looked at Shen Yuan in front of him who was unharmed in shock. Boy, you have to be ready for the next move. After saying this, spikes sprouted from the diamonds on his skin. The armed color domineering aura was derived from the spikes again. The current state is like a hedgehog. Diamond shines. Impact. Boom. Another loud collision sound. Looking at Shen Yuan who was still as steady as an old dog, Xiao Ziyai was stunned. The opponent didn't even use his haki. Sanctification of the flesh. Jaws shook his head. It seemed that was the only way left. Diamond impact. Explosion. It's not over, isn't it? Facing the oncoming attack, he ducked to avoid it. His palm was instantly covered with armament haki, and he grabbed the opponent's neck with one hand. Throw it hard. His figure also jumped high and followed. A rapidly flashing black shadow aimed at Jaw's armor. A punch struck out as fiercely as a storm. When its diamond armor shattered in an instant. Oh! The armor shattered, the blow broke the defense. A huge force poured down on his back. Jaws endured the severe pain and tried to generate armor on his back again. But I never expected that. The black shadow has appeared before his eyes. Xiao Ziyai thought to himself that something was wrong, and his right fist hit nothing. Boom! Shen Yuan threw an uppercut at him angrily, hitting his face until it was distorted. Boom! Jaws was embedded heavily on the deck and vomited blood. Also falling down was Shen Yuan with his hands in his pockets. Defeat the plot character Jaws and increase your level to level 83. Little brother, don't be so arrogant. Chapter 42, A Round-Robin Battle? Wonderful! Wonderful! Vista clapped his hands in applause, drew out his 2 swords, and said in a deep voice. I would like to learn your swordsmanship. Shen Yuan moved his neck slightly, and touched the handle of the knife with one hand, eager to try. Marco wanted to step forward to stop it, but was stopped by Whitebeard beside him. Marco was puzzled and looked at Whitebeard, but ultimately did not try to stop him. Shen Yuan, a round-robin battle? This tactic is really despicable. Can I like? Thinking of this, Shen Yuan's mouth curled up. Standing opposite, Baista pinched his mustache with a serious look on his face. I have always wanted to become a great swordsman in the past few years, but I just lacked one step. I am always a little short of it, and today I want to learn your swordsmanship. Shen Yuan nodded. He couldn't help but complain in his heart, in fact, the difference between you and the great swordsman is just a system. Thinking like this, Shen Yuan drew out his sword. When the heaven-swallowing sword was unsheathed, a terrifying black mist instantly spread out. Want to know the difference between you and the great swordsman? Attack me. I will give you the answer. Vista's expression froze, but his face flushed with excitement. This is a demon sword, this is a demon's sword. Vista's spirits revved up again and he began to prepare for the attack. Whoosh whoosh. His figure flashed, and the slashing attack mixed with flower petals came instantly. Facing such a gorgeous attack, Shen Yuan felt dazed. It feels like you are in a paradise. Nevertheless. But he responded quickly. Tunshan blocked horizontally and took the slash. He tilted his body, aimed at Vista's chin, and suddenly launched an attack. Bistiatan felt a gust of evil wind blowing in his face. Oh! A fist hit his chin. The former was dizzy and confused. Whoosh! Tunshan lifted it up and brushed past Vista's cheek. If Vista hadn't dodged it, wouldn't I be embarrassed now? He touched the mustache on his face and found that only half of it was left. The attack is far from over. Shen Yuan raised his sword again. The opponent suddenly felt the strong pressure coming at him, and he shuddered and got goosebumps all over his body. Chiang! Vista still gritted his teeth and took the blow, and the collision between the two emitted bursts of violent aura. Rose petals. Rose dance. Waves of petals transformed from sword energy fell one after another, crackling and attacking Shen Yuan. A series of tinkling sounds were heard continuously, but there was no damage to its body at all. After the slashing, Shen Yuan smiled faintly. Useless slash, just a clown. Upon hearing this, Vista became instantly furious. The two swords were suddenly covered with armed color domineering. Two straight lines extended all the way to Shen Yuan. Buzz! Two rapid slashes came whistling. But, at this moment, an unparalleled momentum burst out instantly. This is a combination of domineering haki and observation haki. This moment. It was as if time had stopped. Shen Yuan looked at Vista who was slowly moving forward in front of him and shook his head. Snapped. Shen Yuan gave Vista a big slap in the face at that time. Most of his teeth were blown away, and the blood in his mouth stagnated in mid-air but did not fall down. After that, it even has time to fight back. Both the strength and the speed are unsatisfactory. The so-called swordsman's battle is to be able to use the weapon in his hand flexibly and freely. Are you using the knife, or is the knife using you? The ending sound falls. A hideous wound suddenly appeared on Vista's chest. He flew backwards more than 10 meters and fell into the sea. No one saw what happened. Victory or defeat only happens in a moment. Defeat the plot character Vista and increase your level to level 84. After doing all this, Shen Yuan still had his hands in his pockets, as if nothing had happened. Come on, next one. Hiss. Everyone gasped. Then I'll be the next one. Marco walked forward with a determined look, his whole body covered in blue flames. Another day. No, 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 today. Let's do it another day. I'm not feeling well today. I'm sorry. I'm really sorry. No, 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 just. As soon as he finished speaking, a fist surrounded by black and white lightning suddenly rose up. Slam it into Marco's chest. Oh! The huge force penetrated Marco's body, and he flew out like a broken sack, falling into the sea with Vista. In battle, we don't care about life or death. Despicable? This is jealousy of the winner. As soon as these words were spoken, the whole place fell into silence again. The three veterans were defeated one after another, and all the captain's desire to challenge was instantly wiped out, and they all fell silent. Gulala. Well said. Whitebeard thrust the Kuskamokari fiercely into the deck with a murderous look in his eyes. Boy, you injured my 3 sons, so I, as a father, cannot just stand by and watch. The two looked at each other, then leaped into the air and flew towards a small island nearby. All the captains were stunned, and most of them followed. Vista, who had just been carried aboard by many of his fellow soldiers, had no time to react. But he was shocked to find that Marco was also lying on the deck like him. You also. Marco said nothing, but nodded in humiliation. Vista looked at the wound on his chest and shuddered again. In fact, just now, Vista could clearly feel that. That knife can definitely kill me in one blow. But Shen Yuan didn't do that, and the teasing during the battle was to impart combat experience. Will there be blood when you strike? Is this Shen Yuan's understanding of kendo? Vista took a deep breath and looked at the scene where 2 figures, one tall and one short, were standing on a small island in the distance. Marco, how many blows did you survive at his hands? Marco smiled bitterly and held up a finger. 1 move. Marco nodded, his face bitter. He could still vaguely feel that power still beating slightly in his chest. I can feel that Shen Yuan didn't attack with all his strength, otherwise, this time, Marco thought, if this punch came in the same way that killed Spondam, he would have to stay in bed for half a month. Kendo means becoming one with your sword, right? Vista looked at the saber lying on the deck in the distance, thoughtful. Marco also had some realization at this time. Shen Yuan's words just now shattered his worldview. In his previous battles, he would just defeat the enemy and that was it. They all won through fair challenges. Is life or death not a matter of life and death on the battlefield? Thatch stood in front of the two of them, a look of shock on his face. I'm telling you two, why were you beaten so badly? Sachi chuckled secretly, and even laughed so hard that his hands were shaking. What the hell? At this moment, Marco and Vista wished they could pin Thatch to the ground and beat him up. But his body wouldn't allow him to do this. Sachi, just wait for me. Two angry voices came, making Thatch shudder. Good fellow, I'd better go and watch the fun first. Marco and Vista were stunned, then they remembered that their father wanted to stand up for them. Okay. The two nodded, helped each other to stand up, and staggered to the railing. How to swim over there? Asked Vista puzzledly. How do you swim over there? You want to swim over there? Aren't you afraid of dying in the sea? Marco's face darkened and he waved to call two of his younger brothers. Get us a boat. Say it. The two younger brothers started to prepare. Hi ha. Don't touch my wound. You bastard. Hiss. Don't touch my pectoral muscles. Damn it. Chapter 43, Battle with the Strongest Man. On an unknown island. At this moment, Shen Yuan and Whitebeard stood opposite each other. Gulala. Are you ready, little ghost? Say it. Without waiting for Shen Yuan to reply, a shocking domineering aura suddenly burst out. And Shen Yuan also instantly released his momentum to fight against it. The white and dark domineering colors collided with each other, making the surrounding trees rustle. Gulala. Come on. Whitebeard picked up Kusunakiri and jumped high. Suddenly chopped towards Shen Yuan. Shen Yuan drew his sword. The two immediately fell into a power struggle. Bursts of red lightning shot out from between the two weapons. It's a truly incredible showdown. Someone said something that instantly made the battle become fierce. Shen Yuan withdrew his attack. He raised his hand to grab Whitebeard's neck, but was slapped away by Whitebeard. Whitebeard's fist suddenly gathered shockwaves of force, and a punch came whistling like a storm. Shen Yuan felt the attack coming towards him. His body suddenly flashed, barely avoiding the attack of the shock wave, and punched upward with an uppercut. At this time, Whitebeard also realized Shen Yuan's intention and tilted his head slightly. A punch grazed Whitebeard's face. Come! Whitebeard roared, and the two of them started fighting each other. The sounds of bodies being hit could be heard continuously, as well as the sounds of angry shouts. Boy! Use more force! You too, old man! The force of shock suddenly exploded. In an instant, Kong Yunqi came with an incomparable surge of power and violent domineering aura. It swept towards Shen Yuan's face. He secretly cried out in dismay, this attack was extremely fast. Shen Yuan's face was instantly covered with armed color and he took the blow. Puff! He couldn't help but spit out a mouthful of blood. Even so, it took the attack and also counterattacked. A punch flew towards Whitebeard's face like a rocket. Chiang! The fist and the knife suddenly collided with each other. Red lightning burst out again. You are still strong and healthy, old man. Shen Yuan smiled slightly, ignoring the pain in his body. The immortal King Kong's physique instantly healed the body. It takes back the sky and swallows it. A whip kick was like a razor, kicking Whitebeard's cheek hard. Oh! Whitebeard was knocked back a few steps by this attack, and blood oozed from the corners of his mouth. Very good, Gulala. Whitebeard inserted the Kusukyum slash into the ground and spread his hands as if pulling the space. How about this trick? At this moment, Shen Yuan only felt a slight vibration from the ground beneath his feet, which made him extremely frightened. He is indeed the strongest man in the world. Shen Yuan once again took the moon step and flew high into the sky. He kicked out several consecutive kicks towards Whitebeard, intending to break Whitebeard. Whitebeard let go. The ground cracked in an instant. The whole island was like an earthquake, and the entire earth was shaken to pieces. With a wave of his hand, He shattered a machete with one punch and leaped high again. Kong Yunqi also returned to his hands. He chopped hard at Shen Yuan. Ding! Under the strong perception of observation haki, scenes emerged in Shen Yuan's mind. Using swordsmanship to counter it, he was able to fight against it again. He used his iron fist to fight back, but his body became unstable and he was blown away more than 10 meters. This is a newly developed ability of Shen Yuan, which is a kind of observation haki. You can sense danger in advance, take countermeasures in advance, and predict the future. Shen Yuan calls it trial and error in the future. At this time, Shen Yuan made up his mind. If you want to hurt Whitebeard, you must use a surprising trick. Well, that's all. Shen Yuan pulled out the heaven-devouring sword, and the demonic energy on the heaven-devouring sword immediately spread out. Two figures slowly emerged from behind him. A figure for life. A figure represents death. Ghostly three swords style. Surround from three sides. Skills are slowly called out. The two figures behind him surrounded Whitebeard in the middle. They all raised their hands high to swallow the sky and accumulate energy. Boom! A collision even more fierce than the previous two wrestling matches broke out again. This time, the strong winds completely blew away the trees and rocks around them. White shock force poured out and bombarded the black mist. Whitebeard was slashed with two hideous wounds by the two figures of life and death, and blood flowed out of the wounds uncontrollably. He grinned and marveled. He had seen demonic swords with ghostly auras before, but he had never seen a demonic sword with ghostly auras that could split into clones to assist in battle. The knife in this kid's hand is most likely a black knife. A teenage kid. How long did it take to master the skill of using a black knife? The more I think about it, the more frightened I am. Thinking of this, Whitebeard frowned and slightly increased the strength in his hands. Oh! There was another explosion. The two figures retreated backwards at the same time. They kept staring at each other. Whitebeard spat out a mouthful of blood, and a hideous wound appeared on his abdomen, and blood flowed out like a stream. Ha 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 ha! Old man! Keep going! Shen Yuan was not feeling well at the moment. Not to mention the big cut made by Kong Yun, which had been repaired quickly. Just take that damn shock force, Shen Yuan now feels like someone is eating Oreos soaked in milk inside his body. Cough cough! Whitebeard coughed up a mouthful of blood, revealing his blood-stained white teeth, and stood up again. Looking at Shen Yuan who was carrying Tunshin on his shoulders in the distance, he was looking at him with contempt. The little devil is really arrogant. Whitebeard wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth and continued, let me see how strong you are. Seeing this scene, all the captains and crew members of the Shen Yuan adventure group. They were all stunned. To be more precise, I was stunned. What a wonderful battle! Enel clenched his fists excitedly, his whole body turned red, as if he was the one dueling with Whitebeard. Incredible! Marco forgot the pain and watched the battle on the field seriously. At this moment, the two of them put away their knives. They both understood that using weapons to attack again might result in injury. Oh! Shen Yuan punched Whitebeard in the face, and the latter took 2 steps back. Boy! Oh! Whitebeard also punched Shen Yuan in the face with his backhand. Ola 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 ola! Shen Yuan punched continuously and started a fight with Whitebeard. Listening to the ping-pong sounds on the field, everyone was stunned again. Lao Deng! Take my punch! Whitebeard just stood there, neither dodging nor evading, allowing the fists to hit him. After the punch landed, Whitebeard shook his head and said, it's my turn. A punch came towards Shen Yuan, knocking his head sideways. Next, it's my turn. Shen Yuan stretched his arm back to gather strength, then swung it out. Attack like a tiger hunting its prey. Oh! Humph! Little devil! It's my turn. Oh! Shen Yuan and Whitebeard started fighting each other with punches, neither of them was willing to admit defeat, and they started a round-based system. What should we do in this situation? Vista looked at Marco with a questioning look. Do you dare to go up and stop it? Vista trembled 3 times and shook his head hurriedly. Then ask about 7 or 8. Vista was silent, having been scolded into being honest. Take my uppercut! Whitebeard roared and threw a punch. Knock Shen Yuan high into the sky. Lao Deng, don't learn my moves. As he spoke, Shen Yuan's fist fell from the sky like a meteorite. Justice from heaven. Chapter 44, The social animals are already in place. The battle lasted for 3 full days and 3 nights. Edward Newgate, known as the strongest man in the world. He fought with the new king, god of death Shen Yuan for 3 days and 3 nights. In the islands, the two of them still stood straight, facing each other. It was as if the war had started 3 days ago. The scenery on the island has been reduced to dust, and the island is broken into pieces, with only a few seagulls still flying in the sky. The two looked at each other in silence. It was not that they didn't want to talk, but that they couldn't talk. At this moment, the two were exhausted, but they still stood there with their arms folded, facing each other. Whitebeard was covered in scars, and his bruised face and nose looked horrifying. But what surprised everyone was that Shen Yuan, who was fighting against him, had unusually smooth skin. If it weren't for the torn clothes that showed the fierce battle between him and his opponent, he would seem like he had never experienced anything at this moment. Everyone observed on this unknown island for 3 days and 3 nights. Defeat the plot character Edward Newgate and increase your level to level 89. 5 levels in a row. Shen Yuan was extremely tired, and at this moment he felt as if there were 2 mountains pressing down on his eyelids. However, he still resisted the sleepiness and took a look at the system's reward. Marco and the other squad leaders fell silent, and began to ponder the gap between themselves and Shen Yuan. And battle maniacs like Enel and Tashiji haven't slept a wink since 3 days ago. The most shocked people were the Baroque people. They live in the East China Sea and only have a narrow view of the world, so it is rare for them to see such a scene. Da's bonus eyes lit up slightly and he took a breath of cold air. Boss Shen Yuan is indeed very powerful. After everyone tinkered with it for a while, the 2 great gods finally fell asleep. Whitebeard and Shen Yuan slept for a whole day and night. Now, Whitebeard was covered in bandages and was looking at Shen Yuan speechlessly. What the hell is your physique like? You recover instantly after getting hurt? Damn! Who can fight you like this? Shen Yuan smiled and took a sip of wine, then glanced at Whitebeard with a hint of contempt. Whitebeard, angry. Little brat. Do you want to fight again? I must kill you in this fight. Marco and others tried to stop him, and Whitebeard's anger gradually subsided. Tell me the truth, what do you think about the next cooperation? Whitebeard did not make any jokes this time. Instead, he sat upright, like a good boy listening to his teacher's lecture. As the saying goes, to resist foreign aggression, one must first stabilize the internal situation. As soon as this word comes out, Tikai, who was sitting in the corner, trembled all over. His 2 eyes stared at Shen Yuan intently, erupting with unprecedented murderous intent. Shen Yuan tilted his head and glanced at Tikai intentionally or unintentionally, but did not uncover his fig leaf. He understood that at this moment, it was not suitable for him to fall out with Whitebeard and his men. False accusation without any basis? You might be making an enemy of the entire Whitebeard pirates. I propose that we first increase the strength of the crew, and then launch a massive attack on Kaido's island. When these words were spoken, the whole audience was silent at first, and then shocked. Attack Kaido? Does that mean you want to declare war on Kaido? Yes, yes. Kaido's territory is also heavily guarded, so let's not. Kaido? The strongest creature on land, sea, and air? Really scary. Many pirates started to discuss non-stop. Shen Yuan didn't care. Just looking at the silent old man with white beard. I have a different opinion as well. Marco stood up and said slowly. It's not impossible to attack Kaido. If we can get guidance from Brother Shin. Having said that, all the team captains couldn't help but look at Shen Yuan with fiery gazes. Baista was excited. With a plop, he knelt in front of Shen Yuan and kowtowed heavily. Please, Brother Shen. Please teach me swordsmanship. Plop. 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 At this moment, the captains knelt down one after another. They all kowtowed to Shen Yuan and offered their most sincere petitions. Shen Yuan's forehead was covered with sweat. With so many people to teach, won't I be exhausted to death? Gu la la la. Whitebeard suddenly laughed heartily and said grimly. Little devil, I can agree to your request, but you must also agree to what you promised me before. Shen Yuan raised his eyebrows slightly and motioned for Whitebeard to continue. You will become my deputy, Whitebeard, and teach my sons to grow up. Such. After I die. My sons don't have to wander around, they can earn a living anywhere with their own strength. Shen Yuan looked at the tall figure in front of him. He was not his biological father, but was he better than his biological father? At this moment, Whitebeard's figure is so majestic and tall. I am moved. Let me work overtime? No way. I reject. Whitebeard's laughter suddenly stopped. Strangely, Whitebeard was not angry, but looked calm. Little ghost, can you tell me why? The latter continued, too tired. Shen Yuan. Nima. I was a corporate slave when I was alive, and now I am forced to become a corporate slave? 9 to 5? Do you still have to go to bed early every day? Isn't this just the sadness of all age groups gathered together in one age group? Gulala. How about this, kid? You can pick any devil fruit you like from the ones on the ship or those you get later. Money, spend it as you please. If anything goes wrong, I'll take care of it for you. Faced with such conditions, even Shen Yuan couldn't help but be moved. What tempted him was the devil fruit. As everyone knows, the famous dark fruit was obtained by the White Group crew. Maybe you can get other precious devil fruits? Looking at the Whitebeard in front of him again, it was as if he was looking at his own father. Okay. Since Senior Whitebeard is so sincere, I will accept your offer with all my heart. I am unworthy of it. I am unworthy of it. The old man with Whitebeard turned dark, but he was still very happy in his heart. Getting a tool man and top combat power and fighting maniac. Who can refuse this? Even if you want my life, I will give it to you. Having said that, Whitebeard still admires Shen Yuan very much. He has different views on war and rule, and dares to openly go against the world government. Okay. Guys, we'll have a party today, and let the little devil figure out those things on his own. This time it was Shen Yuan's turn to be upset. So you're spending a fortune just to get me here to be your tool, right? Having said that. But everyone is very happy. On the one hand, Dad's deputy is equivalent to the deputy captain. On the other hand, Shen Yuan's strength is unmatched. Whether it is leadership or lethality, they have recognized it. This evening's banquet. There will definitely be a fierce battle. After a night of fighting, everyone was drunk on the deck, except Shen Yuan, who was leaning against the mast, thinking with his head down. Still holding a glass of rum in his hand. Captain, you seem to have something on your mind. A stream of quicksand slowly appeared in front of Shen Yuan, with a cigar in his hand. Old Sand, don't you want to assassinate Whitebeard? This is the best opportunity. Lao Sha was stunned and asked, you know all this? But then he smiled with relief. I have seen my own strength clearly. At least now I have no chance to challenge Whitebeard. What's more, I have already done things for you. Shen Yuan nodded secretly, admiring this hero very much. Many people think that Lao Sha is very evil, using a criminal group to obtain the blueprints for the production of Pluto. Little did people know that Crocodile's dream was to become the pirate king. Why is Luffy's dream just a dream, but Crocodile's dream a heinous crime? They are pirates too. Lao Sha is obviously more like a real hero. Lao Sha, I will support your dream, but don't do it by hook or by crook. Lao Sha was surprised but then understood and couldn't help laughing. Goo-ha-ha-ha. Goo-ha-ha-ha. It's an honor to have the support of a great man like you. Shen Yuan also smiled faintly. Lao Sha, there is one more thing I need your help with. What? Lao Sha moved slightly closer to Shen Yuan and listened attentively. I want you to help me search for the whereabouts of the Golden Lion and then inform me. Lao Sha smiled and agreed immediately. Goo-ha-ha-ha, but you still have an unfinished promise. What? Help me become stronger. That's easy to say. Report tomorrow. Shen Yuan frowned and looked around. It seemed that another person was missing. That old man Rayleigh is missing again. Chapter 45. Have you had breakfast? Early morning. When the first rays of sunlight shone on the deck of the Moby Dick. It means everyone is ready. Is the deputy captain still asleep? Yet. Are you still asleep? Marco said nothing and stood quietly in front of Shen Yuan's cabin door. Marco thought to himself, if you guys keep quarreling like this, you can wake up the dead. Shen Yuan stretched hard, pushed Khalifa aside, and picked up the cigar on the table. Hey! Ha! While people here are still puffing away smoke, the group of people waiting outside have veins bulging on their foreheads. Boom boom boom! Brother Shen? Are you there? Are you there? Shen Yuan was stunned, and then his face slowly turned dark. Hello? Brother Shen? Are you not here? I'm coming in. After saying that, Marco opened the door. It's better not to open it. This opening. He suddenly saw a beautiful picture. At this moment, beside Shen Yuan, Khalifa and Tashiji were half naked, covering their upper bodies with quilts, staring at Shen Yuan with resentful eyes. Don't smoke in the morning. Marco seemed to have thought of something and closed the door silently. Marco, is the deputy captain still asleep? Marco smiled bitterly. The deputy captain just finished breakfast, let him take his time. Everyone was stunned. What do you mean just finished breakfast? In a moment. Everyone settled down on an island and were chatting listlessly. Suddenly, 3 figures slowly descended from a distance. Taking a closer look, they saw that it was Shen Yuan and the other 2. Tashiji Khalifa, return to the team. Everyone line up. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone stood up and hurriedly organized themselves into lines. Looking at the formation in front of him, 2 blue veins instantly appeared on Shen Yuan's forehead. Disband. Everyone was confused, but they dispersed. Everyone, assemble. The tall ones stand in front, and the taller ones stand in the back. Everyone was stunned again, but they lined up and stood in line. It took more than 5 minutes to arrange them according to their size. Disband. Shen Yuan spoke gloomily. The only thing left in everyone's heart now is doubt, nothing but doubt. Marco was the first to react, and shouted at everyone. Everyone, stop talking. Line up quickly according to size. As expected, everyone stopped talking and quickly formed a line. I haven't even said to gather yet. Marco, you stand first. Go to the side and watch. Marco's face darkened. But he stood aside obediently. This first training is the training of military discipline. Shen Yuan took out another cigar and started smoking in front of everyone. Everyone must follow orders and obey the orders of their superiors completely. Do you understand? Everyone answered in unison. Understand. Didn't you eat? Clear. Louder. Let me hear the sound behind me. Clear. Having said that, the puzzled little faces still revealed confusion. I know you don't know why I do this. Haven't you noticed that every war ends with more casualties among the pirates? Because pirates are pirates. They are just wild. Of course, there is no problem with 1 or 2 or even a dozen. What if there are dozens of people? What if there are hundreds of people? At this point, everyone understood and began to think deeply. Okay, now you have to obey my orders completely. I said go east, you can't go west. I said beat the dog, you can't chase Kun. Do you understand? Everyone continued to respond loudly, understood. It is good. Shen Yuan smiled and continued his hard teaching career. All of you have different talents. Just like Marco and Yozu are more suitable for my iron fist fighting style, while Enel, Jean, and Crocodile are more agile. It is more suitable to eat devil fruits and fight together. Marco's little face instantly became smug, and he looked at Vista who was standing in the queue with a mocking look. Although Vista was angry, he kept the teachings in mind and suppressed his anger. At this point, everyone's eyes lit up. First, the first step is to train your concentration. Shen Yuan continued slowly, the so-called concentration is equivalent to perseverance. Constantly break through yourself and then surpass yourself. He looked at Enelu and Jean and smiled slightly. Enelu stepped forward to show how to train concentration. Enelu nodded and walked out of the queue. Hang your forearms around your waist and stand in a half-squat position with your legs spread out. This is the basic skill, the horse stance. Don't underestimate the horse stance. All of you, listen to my command. All. Everyone followed Enelu's example. But he started doing horse stance without hearing the command. I haven't even said start yet. Everyone, do horse stance until the evening. If I see anyone slacking off, I will beat you like I beat your father. At this point, 2 blue veins suddenly bulged on the forehead of the white-bearded man sitting beside him. Little devil! What the hell do you mean? He ignored Whitebeard's impotent rage and continued to give orders. Marco, Jaws, Enel, Crocodile, and Jean, all of you stand aside. You don't need this kind of training anymore. Say it. The 4 of them walked out of the queue and stood aside. Tashiji, Vista, Khalifa, stand behind me. As soon as he finished speaking, 3 people walked out excitedly and stood behind Shen Yuan. Okay, stand still. Old man, you keep an eye on them. If anyone dares to move, beat them to death. Don't give me face. The old man with white beard turned black. So he's not your son, right? After instructing Whitebeard, Shen Yuan turned around and looked at the members behind him. You are my elite, and the elite of the Whitebeard pirates. Therefore, the training tasks for elites may be more arduous. After that, he continued. My request to you is that in the days ahead, you must train yourselves with the determination to kill me. Do you understand? Clear. Everyone is firm and resolute, and exudes a temperament of not admitting defeat. Very good, let the training begin. What to start? Oh. The huge force arrived, and Marco was knocked away instantly with one punch. What? The battle starts now. Petal Rose. Arc Wheel Dance. One Sword Style. Black Light Rain. Fang Tian. Fenshin. Countless attacks came towards Shen Yuan. Oh. Boom. Boom. His figure flashed, and all the attacks gathered together were dissolved. Enela felt a chill in his heart. A swift whip kick hit Enel's face hard. The speed is astonishing. Oh. Enela flew backwards, and suddenly adjusted his body in the air. He straightened the Fang Tian Huaji in his hand again. Rushing violently. A series of clanging sounds of fighting reached Whitebeard's ears, making him unable to help but look back. Don't peek, old man. Keep a close eye on your sons. The white-bearded old man's face turned red, then dark, and then he turned around again. Tisk. If you don't want to watch it, then don't watch it. Marco felt the gap and his strength increased. Just as he said, it is impossible to hurt Shen Yuan without the intention of killing him. Thinking of this, everyone kept being knocked down and getting up. Knocked down, get up. Slowly. No one could get up again. Only Kyan climbed up tremblingly, took out a bottle of green potion from her pocket, tilted her head back and drank it. Master, can we do this again? Shen Yuan smiled and looked at the bottle of medicine in his hand, becoming interested. Yes, your medical talent is also very good. You should also take time out to study medicine in the future. After saying this, before Kyan could react. Like a tiger. Like a hungry wolf. Like a cheetah's punch. Suddenly attacked Joan. Thunder. Thunder. Boom. Chapter 46. Total War begins. On board the Moby Dick. Whitebeard folded his arms and sat in front of Shen Yuan seriously. Shen Yuan was also extremely serious, with a stern expression. Marco's expression was extremely strange and curious. To 3. Fuck you. I only have one left. Let me go. When Marco saw this scene, his eyes lit up instantly. To 5. Let's go. Shen Yuan's face darkened as he took out a handful of Baileys from the purse beside him and stuffed them into Marco's pocket. Deputy Captain. You have lost all the Baileys today. And Dad. Whitebeard's face wasn't black, it was just red and white at times. It's like the circuit breaker at home after a power leak, it keeps jumping back and forth. Stop playing. It has been more than 3 months since the training. When the world government learned that Shen Yuan and his crew were already on the Whitebeard pirate's ship, they did not take any action for a while. Shen Yuan has been quiet for more than 3 months. Little did he know that this was just the beginning of his nightmare. Dad. Big things. Big things. After 3 months of baptism, all the squads and captains have undergone qualitative changes. First of all, temperament and appearance. From a variety of clothes to a uniform dress. The second is your own strength. Some captains have even mastered intermediate 2-color domineering. Namor looked at Shen Yuan and saluted respectfully. Vice Captain. Shen Yuan nodded, folded his arms, and listened quietly to Muir's report. Dad, here's today's newspaper. That's right. This is exactly what the world government decided 3 months ago. It was finally distributed today. Whitebeard stretched out the newspaper and looked at the contents. Newspaper headline. The Emperor of the Sea is finally established. Newspaper content. From today, the world government will announce that. Officially establish the Emperor of the Sea. Currently, the initial candidates for the Sea Emperor are the Beasts Pirates, the strongest creatures on land, sea, and air, Kaido. Red Hair Pirates, Red Hair, Shanks. Big Mom Pirates, Big Mom, Charlotte Linlin. Whitebeard Pirates, Whitebeard, Edward Newgate. After reading a report, Whitebeard was thoughtful. Following the above, there is another piece of news below. Newspaper content. Recently, we discovered that Shen Yuan, nicknamed the God of Death, had an affair with the revolutionary Long. We have classified this person as an extremely vicious criminal and have increased the reward to 2.53 billion berries. When the news came out, Whitebeard didn't react at all. After all, our strength is there, and 2.5 billion is indeed not a lot. Even a little aggrieved. There is another report below, which is as follows. The 7 warlords of the sea are being prepared. Those who are interested please go to the holy land of Marijoa. Shishibukai? What is that? Maybe 7 of them covered their faces and jumped into the sea. Whitebeard heard this. The originally naive smile froze. 7 of them covered their faces and jumped into the sea. Old man, today is the day to go to war. Shen Yuan slowly walked out of the captain's room. Wearing a cape. The back is printed with the same logo as Whitebeard's cloak. I took advantage of your position as deputy, you don't mind, do you? Whitebeard in the captain's room was about to speak. I know you don't care. After all, I spent so much time teaching you those cows and horses. You should learn to be grateful. Whitebeard was about to speak when he heard this. All right. He stretched out his arm and spread out his 5 fingers, and continued. Let's go, don't miss me too much. Whitebeard. First squad, 5th squad, everyone assemble. Say it. Marco and Vista walked forward with serious expressions. 2nd squad, 3rd squad, everyone assemble. Enel and Jaws walked forward and stood still. This battle must be won, understand? Everyone shouted. Understand. Although we are the initiators of the war, Kaido's rule is too brutal. We are here under a legitimate pretext, and we are enforcing justice on behalf of heaven. Do justice for heaven. Shen Yuan was satisfied and walked up to pat Xiao Ziyi on the shoulder. You have fully inherited my iron fist fighting method. Continue to hone yourself in war. Jaws nodded heavily. Guaranteed to complete the mission. I don't know when a few drops of crystal appeared in my eyes. I declare that total war has begun. Profound. Now. Everyone on the boat was excited. Even Whitebeard shuddered slightly. Shen Yuan seemed to notice the red-faced and thick-necked Whitebeard, and said in a deep voice. Don't worry, old man. You'll have your chance to appear. After that, Shen Yuan continued to talk about the tasks he had assigned to them. First. The Moby Dick will follow our attack route all the way. Next. I will assign tasks to each team. Everyone must obey orders perfectly. I believe your respective captains have explained this to you. Everyone nodded and listened quietly. Marco and Jaws are in charge of the assault, fighting the enemy head-on. Your combat purpose is to confront head-on and tie down most of the opponent's combat power. The two looked at each other and nodded. Enel is in charge of searching for the treasure. Anyone who stands in your way will be killed, regardless of gender or child. Enel nodded heavily without any hesitation. Vista is in charge of the assassination. Keep an eye on the opponent's logistics and beat them hard. Vista nodded and tightened the knife in his hand slightly. The others will temporarily escort the main ship. After the orders were issued one by one in an orderly manner. Several small teams set sail one after another, while the main ship remained on hold for the time being. In this war, Shen Yuan was the commander-in-chief of the operation, and the rest of the personnel performed their duties in an orderly manner. As this newspaper spread, a rising star has turned into a notorious evil criminal. Ah, ha, ha, ha. What a dangerous little devil. Kaido held a wine gourd in his hand and drank the wine in big gulps. At this moment, he was sitting in the cave, with the black charcoal snake kneeling in front of him. Lord Kaido, please lend me a helping hand. Kaido frowned and couldn't help but get angry. Are you using me as a tool? The mace, accompanied by a gust of wind, suddenly smashed towards the black charcoal snake. But it suddenly stopped less than a few centimeters away from his face. Okay, I'll accept it for now. The black charcoal snake breathed a sigh of relief, then his eyes flashed with ferocity. Humph! The 9 red scabbards, hey? You just wait for me. Kaido waved his hand and shooed the snake away like a fly. The other party. IWC. MMM. After becoming one of the 4 emperors, Charlotte Linland's ambitions grew even greater. Well, well. This kid is such an interesting guy. If I could marry him, what kind of children would I have? What he didn't know was that during these 3 months, Shen Yuan, when chatting with Whitebeard, he called him an old sow more than 3,700 times. Mom, will the system of the 7 warlords of the sea have any impact on us? Katakuri, one of the 3 desert generals, was holding a newspaper in his hand, which was obviously just printed. Shishibukai. The ant didn't care. And a little disdainful. What are the 7 warlords of the sea? How can he, the 7 warlords of the sea, compare with the 4 emperors? The other party. Baroque Studio. Shishibukai. At this time, Lao Sha was holding a newspaper in his hand and smiling slightly. He reached out and pulled out a den mushi. When the call was connected, Lao Sha was delighted. Hey! Shen Yuan was lying on a small boat at the moment and answered the phone casually. Captain, congratulations on the bounty exceeding 2 billion. Fuck away. What do you think of the Shishibukai? Shen Yuan felt very familiar with this name. Who seemed to have said this? However, he still considered the pros and cons of the 7 warlords of the sea and finally gave his opinion. Becoming one of the 7 warlords of the sea can better ensure that you can gather intelligence with all your strength. You are my eyes over these seas, understand? Lao Sha smiled slightly and immediately made the decision. Ha 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 ha. Let me see what this so-called 7 warlords of the sea is. At this moment, Old Sand moved his headquarters to the relatively rich Alabasta. Everything seems to be back on track. But there are many factors that have changed. Chapter 47. Opening. Reporting to the battle command, an enemy island has been discovered. Should we launch an attack? At this moment, an island is looming in the distance, like a giant beast lurking on the sea. The island is heavily guarded, and several patrol boats are patrolling the sea like alert hounds. Shen Yuan looked into the distance and caught a glimpse of the flag flying on the island. That was the logo of the beast's pirates. This island has a lot of oil and water. Shen Yuan waved his hand and all the staff immediately took action. At Marco's call, the team members in uniform behind him quietly hid their bodies like ghosts and launched a secret operation towards the island. Jaws also took a look at the island in the distance, then leaped into the air, and his diamond-covered fist slammed into the coast of the island like a meteor. Oh! There was a deafening explosion, like a sudden thunder. The noise instantly alarmed the pirates stationed on the island. Enemy attack detected. Enemy attack detected. The pirates on the island panicked and began to be on guard as if they were facing a great enemy. However, how could they resist the regular army that had been training hard for half a year? Boom! Jaw's body shone with dazzling diamond light, as if possessed by the god of war, and launched a crazy and violent attack on the beast minions in front of him. Boom! 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 The deafening explosions continued one after another, never stopping. Marco in the distance flew high into the sky like an eagle, with blue flames covering his sharp claws. Come and taste my justice that comes down from the sky. On the island, all the beasts looked up at the sky in panic. I saw a huge bird covered in green flames in the sky ready to take off, as if it would launch a thunderous attack in just a moment. Everyone in the beast's pirates couldn't help but shudder. Hurry up and report to Lord Hold'em. Yes, yes. A small operative in charge of communications walked into the tent in a panic, completely unaware that there was a person sitting inside. He had a small mustache and held 2 swords in his hands. You are Vista from the Whitebeard Pirates. Not bad. Before he could finish his words, the little thug's head fell to the ground with a thump. Hehe, you can report it, but do you need to wait a while? After he finished speaking, Vista picked up the den mushi and crushed it to pieces. At this time, the situation outside was very good. In front of Yozo lay the bodies of the beast's pirates. His hands are stained with the blood of countless opponents. Brothers, let's make a concerted effort to capture the island. As everyone knows, the moment the white group stepped onto the island, a signalman reported it. At this time, Hold'em had already received a request for help. He was extremely anxious at this moment. Hello? Who did you say invaded? The little minion said tremblingly. It could be the Whitebeard Pirates, Lord Hold'em. Our other communications team is dead, and now I am secretly, The den mushi hung up and there was no sound from the other end. Hold'em gasped. The strongest man in the legend. Saying. Hold'em acted decisively and called Jack. Blue blue blue, blue blue blue. Jack was lying in a hot spring at this time. He answered the phone in a daze, with an impatient look on his face. Hello? Hold'em? What's wrong? Master Jack, the small island near Whitebeard's forces seems to have been lost. Jack was instantly free of all tiredness, and suddenly stood up from the hot spring with a fierce look in his eyes. What? Why don't you go to the rescue? Hold'em trembled and said. I heard that the opponent is the Whitebeard pirates. I think I need to report this to Lord Kaido. Although Jack was angry, he was not a fool. On second thought. This time the Whitebeard pirates launched a massive attack on their home territory, and they may have already made a countermeasure. If I rush to rescue him now, I will probably die there. Okay, I will organize all the Shin Uchiha to go to the rescue now. I will tell Kaido about this. Say it. The phone hangs up. Hold'em breathed a sigh of relief. Hey! Losing an island doesn't seem like a big deal, but this is not just a problem for the island, it could cause unrest in the new world. The lion head on his belt couldn't help but complain. You idiot, how much money do you get paid to work so hard every day, and yet you care about national affairs? This lion head looks like it deserves a beating, with a face full of arrogance and domineering. What the hell? You bastard! I'm going to kill you. Lord Hold'em, we must defend the island now. You must stop fighting among yourselves. Hold'em stopped instantly and began to direct everyone to set up a defense line. Now let's talk about the people in the white group. All the beast pirates on the island have been wiped out. Dozens of pirate captives were tied up tightly in the tents on the island. In front of them now. It was Shen Yuan wearing the cloak of the Whitebeard pirates. Who is your superior? After these words were spoken, all the prisoners fell silent. You won't say it, right? Shen Yuan glanced at Enelu. He understood instantly. A golden flash suddenly slashed out. One of the captives was hit by a lucky blow and died in front of everyone with his head and body separated. All the prisoners shuddered. Isn't this a human being? In the previous battles, the most he could do was be stabbed to death. There's nothing wrong with that. At least you'll have an intact body after death. But among this group of people, anyone with a weapon in their hands would behead the enemy. I said. One of the captives finally couldn't stand the pressure and started to confess. I say. Our superior is Hold'em, the real fighter under Jack. Shen Yuan touched his chin and nodded. Where's Jack? Do you know? The prisoner continued. I don't know. Master Jack is one of the three big names, but we don't know where he is. Okay. Enelu looked at Shen Yuan with a questioning look. He nodded in tacit agreement. Just like cutting wheat, he saved all the people in front of him on the spot. Marco, please report the casualties. Shen Yuan was holding a cigar in his hand and flipping through the Devil Fruit Encyclopedia. Okay. Reporting to the Commander-in-Chief, no casualties, 2 people were slightly injured. Shen Yuan nodded, very satisfied. Looking at the gold and silver and the colorful devil fruits on the ground, he seemed to be thinking about something. How did Kaido get devil fruits before he teamed up with Doflamingo? At this moment Shen Yuan fell into deep thought. Could it be that they were all found? Just thinking like this, Shen Yuan commanded everyone to move a bunch of devil fruits and a wide variety of items onto the boat. Keep sailing. Everyone goes out to sea again. Now. Hold'em and his team set up a cordon at the border island. At this moment, all the pirates seemed very nervous. Buru. The phone rang, startling Hold'em. He took a closer look. Isn't this Speets Den Mushi? What's the matter? Don't you know that I'm on guard? Makabaka. Hey! Hold'em, do you want to die? Hold'em's expression froze. It was Jack. Boss Jack, no. I'm sorry, I just thought. Let's not talk about this for now, boss, we have already defended the coastline, what do you think? I haven't finished my sentence yet. Hold'em watched as a huge pillar of green fire fell from the sky. Come and see my newly developed ability, Blue Flame. Emperor Yan. Chapter 48. Lost. Boom. The green pillar of fire instantly tore a hole in the defense line set up by Hold'em and others. Large groups of enemy troops were burned to ashes, but the power remained undiminished and instantly ignited all the remaining pirates. Eternal Blue Flame. 0 degree. As Marco said this, The color of all the blue flames became deeper again. The person possessed by the flame began to slowly freeze until he was unable to move. Ha 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 ha. This is my power. I don't know when Jaws rushed up. Rushed directly towards Hold'em. I saw blue diamond armor beginning to emerge from its body, and then the armament color was attached again. Now Jaws. Like a moving meteorite. He bumps into things wherever he goes, without even taking a breath. The Den Mushi in Hold'em's hand fell to the ground. Completely stunned on the spot. The opponent attacked me in just a few moves despite the defenses and traps I had carefully laid out. Just as Hold'em was about to pick up the Den Mushi, he was crushed by Enelu. Weaklings, go to hell. Looking at Enelu's childish face, Hold'em smiled contemptuously. Little devil. Don't be so stubborn. Saying. Hold'em began to activate the lion head on his waist, wanting to use the hellfire to kill the arrogant kid in front of him on the spot. Humph. Enelu took the initiative. A cold light flashed across his chest. Hold'em's hands, which were rubbing the lion's head, suddenly stopped. Looking at the little ghost in front of him in disbelief. You have no moral principles and are despicable. Enel's face was gloomy, and the Fang Tian Huaji in his hand gradually gathered the color of armed forces, preparing to give him the final blow. Meanwhile, it's just jealousy of the winner, Fenshen. The halberd was swung out with great force, and the wild force came swinging violently along with the strong wind. Wow! Time seems to stand still at this moment. Before Hold'em felt any pain, he suddenly felt dizzy. All he could see was a slowly darkening world, and he couldn't even see his opponent's face clearly. I was beheaded. Hold'em was still in disbelief before he died. He didn't believe that a little devil could easily kill him with one sword. What a madman! What a madman! In the distance, a monkey-like figure slowly approached. A knife suddenly slashed towards Enelu. Chiang! Vista blocked the attack firmly. Enel, go and carry out your mission, leave this to me. Enel nodded, said nothing more, and left. Vista looked at the person with special abilities in front of him with great interest, and was slightly surprised. After listening to Shen Yuan's account of the origin of mankind. Aren't human ancestors monkeys? Eat the monkey fruit. Equal to degradation? The face of the gift giver in front of him turned black. At this moment, Bista's gaze was like staring at a vase on display. Why is this guy looking at me like a lady? Asshole! Don't underestimate me. The monkey ability user instantly became furious. The limbs gradually stretched out, as if they had eaten a rubber fruit. Arm. Spear. The long arms quickly attacked Vista. The latter easily dodged the attack by tilting his head slightly. But I'm still thinking about this question in my mind. Vista, Mom, I think I found a bug. So. Eating an ancient species of animal-type devil fruit in the form of a straight ape is the same as not eating it. Vista's expression became strange and his thoughts drifted away. The more Vista made this expression, the more humiliated the monkey in front of him felt. Do you think of me as a mascot? Long legs. Heavy artillery. Vista turned his head and dodged again. The long legs suddenly slammed into a pirate from the beast group. Fuck. Who is playing dirty tricks? The pirate flew out backwards. The monkey's face was extremely gloomy. At this moment, he felt that the man with a mustache in front of him was playing a trick on him. Stop playing around, Vista, there are reinforcements in the distance. Marco's high-pitched voice came over, instantly bringing Vista back to reality from his deep thoughts. Vista reacted and took up his dual sword stance. Then, with an extremely beautiful slash, the limbs of the monkey in front of him were instantly cut off. What? The monkey fell to the ground wailing, staring at Vista with a face full of resentment. I'll study you carefully when I get back. Say it. Vista instantly rushed towards the beast pirates who were shooting arrows from behind. Rose petals. Sword rain. Say it. Petals are scattered all over the sky. The storm blew towards the pirates. At this time, Jack was on his way. Jack was extremely anxious. Speed was also extremely anxious. Sip's head was also extremely anxious. The three extremely anxious ones directly combined into 2 stars. Boss Jack, news has come from Border Island that Hold'em is dead and Border Island has now fallen. Jack waved his hand gloomily without any response. What can I do? I fly over? Swim over? Thinking of this, Jack suddenly remembered that this matter had not yet been reported to Lord Kaido. As he said that, Jack took out his den mushi. A phone call was made to Kaido. Hey! Listening to the drunken tone of the other party, Jack sighed. Lord Kaido, it seems that the old man Whitebeard has taken over the border island, and it seems that his intention is not just to stop at the border island. Kaido is drinking. When I heard the news, I spat out a mouthful of wine. Puff. Kaido was immediately furious. The originally calm mood suddenly changed. Pick up the mace beside you and beat the minions around you into a pulp. What? That old bastard Whitebeard actually took the initiative to provoke a war. Doesn't he know that a war between the four emperors would cause turmoil in the new world? Thinking of this, Kaido's emotions got out of control again. Another stick was swung out, creating a big hole in the cave. I'm furious. Kaido just smashed the cave like this. It lasted for more than 10 minutes before it gradually subsided. Jack, where are you now? Kaido said gloomily. Lord Kaido, I'm on my way to Border Island. Although Kaido was angry, he did not lose his mind. I couldn't help but start thinking about how to deal with it. Jack, I'll tell Yin to go with you to provide support. If you can't win, just run away, okay? Jack nodded heavily, feeling a little warm inside. Call. Kaido breathed a sigh of relief. The speed of the invasion is not that fast, and the losses can be recovered as long as we stop the losses in time. Somebody come! Kaido roared. Afterwards, a few minions came running over tremblingly. Notify all 6 members of the Flying Six to rush to Border Island for rescue. Wait, Maria doesn't have to go. Kaido regained his composure, sat down and started drinking again. At this time, his business of creating artificial devil fruits had just started. Now I must stay at the headquarters. This is why Kaido is most afraid of war. Just thinking about this, Kaido took out a den mushi that looked like a big mom. What the hell? What the hell? Kaido, you damned bastard, what are you doing? Ororororo. Lingling, I have a big deal here, do you want to do it? The ant was eating cake at this time and said vaguely. What kind of deal? Kaido, if you dare to lie to me, I will kill you. Whitebeard, that old man, is attacking my island. If anyone can attack Whitebeard's main ship. They are under attack from both sides, how about we annex their territory together? Ant. Silent. Kaido was delighted, is there hope? Lingling, how is it? There was still no sound. Lingling. Well. Just now a piece of the cake fell off. What did you mean just now? Kaido Long's face darkened and he repeated what he had said before. Well. I need to think about this matter carefully. Kaido still had a dark dragon face and continued. Lingling, hurry up, otherwise the country of Wano will be destroyed by the time you send out the troops. MMM. I will reply you as soon as possible. Don't die at the hands of that old man. Chapter 49. Smile, young. What? The Whitebeard pirates invaded Border Island. A man with 2 horns on his head, combed his hair to one side, and wearing a mask hung up the den mushi. Then he looked at his silly elder sister with a serious expression. This person is Peggy Wan, one of the Flying Six. Sister, the Border Island has been lost, and now Boss Kaido wants us to go and provide support. Yahoo! There's another person we can beat up. Let's go now. Runty was also wearing a mask, with 2 horns on his head, and a silly look, his whole body exuded a funny temperament. She is also one of the Flying Six. Runty clenched the mace in his hand, as if he was already on the battlefield. You guys haven't left yet? I'll leave first. Fuzifu's body suddenly flashed, and he flew towards the port and prepared to set off. Fuzifu originally belonged to CP9, but something happened. He was hunted by the world government and was forced to join Kaido's army. Humph. Let's not fall behind, let's get going as well. Peggy Wan rubbed her brows helplessly and followed. I know. Fuzifu looked at the information in his hand and felt a little secretly delighted. Since Shen Yuan attacked the judicial island and snatched the saber-toothed tiger-shaped devil fruit, he has not had a suitable devil fruit to take. But that opportunity comes today. If we can extract Marco's blood, it is not impossible to become a mythical beastman. At this point, another figure appeared in Fuzifu's mind. Red hair Shanks. Damn Shanks. If it weren't for you, would I have ended up like this? A few years ago, it was Shanks who stole the rubber fruit that was escorted by Fuzzy, which led to the tragedy. Therefore, Fuzzy has always hated Shanks and wishes he could cut him into pieces. Fuzaifa made up his mind to repel the threat on the border, and then turned around to complain, causing a conflict between Kaido and Red Hair. Thinking this in his mind, he slowly flew towards the border island using moon steps. Sasaki sat cross-legged on a pirate ship. There was a hint of contempt between his brows. That old fellow Whitebeard, he still wants to start a war even at his old age? I will crush his grand plan with my own hands. Sasaki was holding a den mushi in his hand, which could be used to contact his backup team on the border island. Hello? Everyone, start to move and find out the identity information of the opponent. Got it. The other party agreed and Sasaki hung up the phone. Hey! Senbon Matsu, don't steal the credit from me when you get here. He has silver hair, wears a white robe, and has a samurai sword hanging from his waist. This person is Senbon Matsu, one of the Flying Six. It depends on who can grab it. Senbon Matsu smiled slightly and said no more. At this time, Jack was still on his way to provide support. Jack slumped down on the deck. Although I was anxious, the boat was so fast. Can I go out to sea and push it myself? Obviously not. Speed was extremely anxious because his partner had died at the hands of the other party. He wants revenge. Now, the battle on Border Island is drawing to a close. As many as 6 or 7 donors, some injured or disabled, were tied up. Baista held his chin and continued to look at the ape, lost in thought. Brother Shen, do you think the problem I mentioned is likely to happen? It is possible. Shen Yuan also squatted beside Vista, looking at the pile of strange shapes in front of him. One of the rattlesnakes looked at Shen Yuan with a vicious look and couldn't help but sneer. Shen Yuan glanced at this scene and stiffly uttered 3 words. You are dead. As soon as Shen Yuan said this, before the rattlesnake could react, its head was chopped off by the golden halberd. His eyes make me very uncomfortable. Now let's all smile. As the saying goes, a smile makes you 10 years younger. Then all the gift givers showed a smile that was uglier than crying. Okay, kill them all and throw them into the sea to feed the fish. Shen Yuan left with his hands behind his back, while Enelu and Vista had red eyes. Hey hey! To the author, don't come over here. Isn't it true that a smile makes you 10 years younger? Who taught you Chinese? 10 years is less, 3 tones is less? This is a polyphonetic word. I understand. Shen Yuan stood with his hands folded, looking at the devil fruit in front of him, but there was still no one he expected. Continue the attack. The order was given, and everyone perked up again. It was as if the injuries just now did not exist. See that inconspicuous little island? There must be something good on that island. Shen Yuan stroked his chin and began to think about how to solve the food problem for everyone. How about this, everyone go to the island's forest to hunt some wild animals for lunch. Another order was issued. After Shen Yuan said this, everyone felt a little hungry. Jack was still on his way. Jack stood up and sat down again. Stand up, then sit down again. Jack couldn't help but get nervous, and the shortle knife in his hand almost fell to the ground. Q, why is it so slow? Because damn Jack is so heavy. How heavy is an elephant beast? About 30 minutes later, the Shen Yuan army had finished their meal. At this moment, Jack is still on his way. He sat listlessly on the boat. Jack, who usually acts lawless, is unusually quiet now. His eyes stared blankly at the sea, skipping water splashes all over the water. Boss Jack! We have reached the border of Border Island. Jack's hand, which was throwing stones, was suspended in the air, and his eyes lit up. Bring the boat over to me. Jack looked fierce and had already picked up the shortle knife on the deck. Right now. Shen Yuan and his men had just finished lunch, and the entire army had already been prepared for battle. Come yet. Shen Yuan slowly stood up from his seat. After stretching his muscles a little, the sound of popping beans came from his neck. Who? Is it Jack? Marco's eyes gradually became hesitant. Jack. Jack the Drought, one of the 3 leaders of the Beast Pirates. He is Kaido's most trusted subordinate. If you die here, Kaido might come to kill you from Onigashima. Commander-in-Chief. What do you think of the next action? Shen Yuan stood in front of everyone with his hands folded. Everyone hide on the island, Jack and I will fight alone. Why? Marco was a little confused, and his eyes were full of desire when he looked at Shen Yuan. Since you know the three big bosses, don't you know the Flying Six? After hearing this, Marco was speechless. You mean, the Flying Six will come to support us? Shen Yuan nodded and looked at the ship slowly approaching the shore in front of him. Marco did not dare to neglect and began to arrange the position for the sneak attack. Because this is the first large-scale war between the strongest cadres of the two four emperors groups. Many people will probably die in the upcoming battle, guys. Shen Yuan roared, instantly arousing everyone's emotions. War means death. We wage war not to kill, but for our happy life afterwards. As soon as these words came out, all the members of the white group became excited instantly. They roared. Kill! 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 Shen Yuan was moved when he saw this scene. Q. Does Shen Yuan have any selfish motives? Answer. Yes, there are. And it's not too small. First of all, it was the dark fruit that he had long coveted. The second is to occupy Kaido's territory to expand power and slowly step onto the top of the world. Become the top of the world and uncover the mystery of this world. Of course, killing Marijoa is inevitable. The dictatorship of this world is incompatible with the concept of 9-year compulsory education that Shen Yuan received. Because of this, for power and ambition, and for the humanity that a normal person should have. But all revolutions are not achieved overnight. It is often accompanied by bloodshed and sacrifice, and separation of life and death. If there is no smooth road to take, then clench your fists and fight your way out. Chapter 50, Just a Mob. The midday sun was extremely scorching, shining brightly on both sides. Invaders. Die. Jack and Shen Yuan stood opposite each other, looking at each other. Jack, are you Kaido's dog? Jack, damn it. You start cursing right away? I don't want to fight anymore. I've voted. I don't want to play anymore. Even so, Jack's eyes were blazing with anger. It instantly transformed into a tall mammoth and rushed towards Shen Yuan rapidly. The latter smiled faintly. Just watch Jack rushing towards him. Speed was extremely excited behind him. He reached out to take out his bow and arrow and wanted to shoot an arrow at Shen Yuan. But as soon as his hand touched the bowstring, he suddenly felt a strong wind coming. The blade of the golden halberd roared like a tiger and pounced on Speed's horse's head. What? Speed took a breath. Asshole! Sheep horns! Sip's head changed his hands into sheep horns and rushed forward. One sword style. Black light rain. The arc-shaped slash swept past, and Sip Shed's horns were instantly separated from his body. Blood was scattered all around. Simultaneously, Enel's halberd was already across Speed's neck. His eyes were cold, revealing a hint of murderous intent. If you move again, I'll chop you down. Upon hearing this, Speed immediately dropped his bow and arrow and dared not move. And Shipshed was lying on the ground screaming in pain. Dashiji adjusted her glasses and pointed the blade at his neck. The minions of the beast's pirates behind him were all frightened by the scene. Now, Jack. One of his tusks was already in Shen Yuan's hand. He played with the ivory in one hand and looked at Jack with an intriguing smile. You bastard! Jack covered his broken teeth and stared at Shen Yuan. I'll kill you! As he spoke, Jack raised his weapon high. Attack Shen Yuan regardless of everything. Shen Yuan covered the ivory with armed color and inserted it fiercely into Jack's chest. That's not all, the tusk was pulled out, bringing out a handful of blood. Your tusks are quite useful. Say it. The opponent in front of Jack suddenly disappeared. When he appeared again, he was already above Jack's head. Your death has come. At the critical moment, a black figure swooped down from afar with a heavy kick. Fire Emperor. The two figures intertwined and collided with each other again. How do you compare to that old man with white beard? Yin's brain was confused for a moment, and he didn't understand what his opponent meant at all. Shen Yuan, if you kill Jack, Lord Kaido will hunt you down to the ends of the earth. Shen Yuan snorted coldly and increased the strength of his foot. After the collision, the two men pulled apart, and Yin slowly landed on the ground, looking very calm. His entire body was covered in pitch-black clothes, with a long sword hanging from his waist and a flame-encircled ember on the back of his head. He was one of the three big names. Are you from the Lunalia tribe? Jin's face darkened and he seemed to be very averse to this topic. Asshole, I'm going to kill you. Although Jack was stabbed by his own tusk, he still managed to stand up. In a blink of an eye, Jack and Yin had formed a siege on both sides. 2 against 1? How about calling Kaido to play with me? Yin and Jack looked at each other and saw murderous intent in each other. Mammoth charge. Jack transformed into a mammoth again, and Jin drew his samurai sword. The two of them went straight to Shen Yuan. Well, let me have some fun with you guys today. As he said this, Shen Yuan casually took off his cloak and threw it behind him. A white uniform that looks no different from a navy uniform. But there is a white group logo on its chest. Damn you little devil! Katana covered in flames. A slashing blow suddenly approached Shen Yuan. The former drew out the heaven-swallowing grid to block the attack. He turned around and kicked Jack hard. Oh! A powerful kick instantly hit Jack's body. He was kicked 3 or 4 meters away by this blow and fell heavily to the ground. Seeing this, Jin drew his sword and turned back. Such a strong force, Shen Yuan, why did your Bai Tuan attack us, the 100 beasts? Before I finished speaking, black fog filled the surroundings. Jin thought to himself that this was not good. Just as he was about to transform into a pterosaur and escape, he turned around and saw a pair of scarlet eyes staring at him. How about calling Kaido? A flash of blade light passed by, and Yin's abdomen was pierced. Puff! Yin spat out a large mouthful of blood and staggered back a few steps before he could steady himself. Puff! Another large mouthful of blood was spurted out. Kneeling on the spot, his eyes were blank and his pupils began to dilate. Damn it, damn it! I haven't seen Boss Kaido become the Pirate King yet, I haven't. Jin covered his abdomen, his consciousness gradually becoming blurred. He didn't expect that. I only managed to survive 2 moves from my opponent before being stabbed to death. Brother Jin. Jack's eyes were red. His whole body was covered with armed color domineering, and he suddenly rushed towards Shen Yuan. You little bastard! I want you to die here. Shen Yuan didn't waste any more words and pulled out the weapon that was inserted into Jin's body. The scene just now is happening again. Black mist filled the air. But Jack rushed forward regardless. Crack! Jack's other tusk was also broken by Shen Yuan. He didn't know when a wound appeared on his back, which kept emitting wisps of black ghostly energy. Vomit! Jack also vomited blood. No longer able to maintain its huge elephant body. It suddenly shrank and lay on the ground, constantly squirming. A rabble! Shen Yuan sheathed the knife and looked at the 2 people on the ground with a teasing expression. What a waste! Defeat the story mission Jin and Jack, and the level is raised to level 94. Shen Yuan was satisfied. This reward was really good. Raise your fist and look up at the sky again, what is coming will come. When Kaido saw Shen Yuan looking towards him, sweat suddenly broke out on his forehead. Just seeing Yin and Jack's life cards burning continuously, he realized the seriousness of the matter. Little devil! I want you to die here. As he spoke, the dragon's body suddenly accelerated, rushing towards the invader. Shen Yuan was already sitting in front of the 2 big bosses, eating an apple leisurely. At the same time, I am also checking the system. Prepare for the upcoming battle. Roughly allocate skill points, and open the panel with a thought. Name, Shen Yuan. Age, 14 years old. Identity, Adventurer. Skills, Navy 6 Styles, LV1, Swordsmanship Mastery, Max Level, Physical Enhancement, Max Level, Agility Enhancement, Max Level, Strength Enhancement, Max Level, Speed Enhancement, LV15, 3 Color Domineering, Max Level. Constitution, Undead King Kong. Agility, Scarlet Demon, added ability based on the original, greatly improves your own perception ability, becomes stronger when injured in battle with the enemy, and strengthens your strength and various attack methods. Speed, Godlike Body. Power, Giant God's Power. Level, 94, randomly get a phased reward at level 100. Looking at his own attributes, he sighed helplessly. I haven't gotten a desired devil fruit yet. What a sin. I heard that Admiral Kizaru is at the Marine headquarters. Why don't I go to the Navy headquarters one day and get a sparkle fruit to play with? Little brat, Lord Kaido will not let you go. When Lord Kaido comes to rescue us, that will be the day you die. Yin tried to speak despite the pain, but he was already tied to a big tree. This scene is just like CP9 some time ago. Tashiji and Kyung were in a trance, as if they had returned to half a year ago. Oh? You still hope that your boss Kaido won't come, otherwise he will die here too. As he spoke, Shen Yuan grabbed Jin's neck, his eyes full of contempt. Believe me, I have the ability.